Comics Cast Let It Out. We are away for a little bit because, holidays and getting together for family. And of course, it was America's birthday. So happy birthday, happy 4th of July, belated happy 4th of July to everybody out there. But we are back. And before I talk about our guest today, I want to mention what Comics Cast is about, which is all about the indie creator. If you're a penciler, an inker, a publisher, writer, you name it. If you're in the indie comic industry, we want you on the show so we can get eyes on you. So we're all about promoting the indie creator here at Comics Cast. And what is Let It Out? Let It Out is this show. It's where we do a more coffee talk, coffee shop, get together at the bar and talk about a particular indie creator, get to know them in a more intimate setting, draw and talk. It's more of a conversation. And we get to draw along with them. That's what makes this show a little bit different. And today we have a special guest. I became aware of this particular artist's art, I think about 2 years ago, thanks to Philip Bressert and Legendary Studios. We were on a particular contest project for Tragedy. And since then, I've been an admirer of his work from afar, but I just got to be good friends with him. And that guy is Mr. Kenny Calderon. And it's going to be very, very, very awesome for me to have that conversation with him, to profile him, to showcase him and his art. But before I do that, let's play our little bumper and get to the show. So we'll catch us soon. Here we go. Hey, I want to welcome Mr. Kenny Calderon. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Yeah. I forgot to mention you hail from the great state of Florida. I hope you're,
yes.
You're keeping it hot down there. I guess both
figuratively
and literally. Yes, exactly. But I want to welcome you to the show, and let me go to the comment field, and I'm going to put a quick comment in here real quick. Let's go to the chat, and I'm going to paste some social media here for Mr. Kenny. So let me pop that up. All right, so you can follow Kenny on Facebook at WILDINX Studios, Twitter at @wild_inc, and his portfolio is at b.net at WILDINX/WILDINX. So that'll be in the comment field. I don't want you all, if you're in the audience, to go there right now because I want your eyes on this show, because we're going to talk Kenny's creative art journey, as well as get to see some of his fantastic art, and we're going to draw along with him too. So this will always be in the comment field, and we want you to check that out, bookmark it, go do that later. So looks like we got Mr. Timothy Hines in the house, so thank you. Yeah. He was in Florida. Florida's a big state. You're in Southern Florida, so you're in that neck of the woods. Check out Kenny. So let's do this. Okay, all right. So let me get this comment down, and let's just get the show on the road. So the first part of any Let It Out is what we call the origin story, and that's where I hand the mic over to our guest, and we get to hear our guest's creative journey, all against a visual backdrop of some of the art that was shared to me by Kenny. And I have to say, I was a fan before. I'm a bigger fan now that I got to see some of the art that I hadn't seen before.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think in our audience, when you check it out, you will be fans as well. So let me hand the mic over to you, Kenny, and let's talk your artistic journey, and I will show some artwork. So here you go. Let's go.
So I'm a native New Yorker, and growing up in New York, I was very, very introverted. It kind of open up and kind of talk to people and make friends, so to speak. So I would always escape into my own imagination and draw, like, really, really often. So I'm going to show my age, but I predate internet and YouTube. So like,
I got years on you, man.
Yeah, dude. Like all of my artistic knowledge came from, just kind of doing some research, and I'm self-taught. So I never went to an art school or anything that specialized in illustration or anything, you know. So a lot of it has been through my own footwork, so to speak.
Mhm.
Uh, but growing up, my first love was graffiti art,
Mhm.
and the cartoons that I would see incorporated into the way, you know, the artists would bomb their lettering, and that's what kind of got me into doing a lot of this stuff, right? And I because I'm a fan of different art forms, sort of like trained myself to work in different art styles, you know, so I can do a little bit of the American traditional stuff, you know, some manga and anime kind of stuff, and you know, always, you know, cartooning is you know where I like started, and I think the diversity comes from something that my father told me a long time ago. My father told me, uh, never like stick to just one thing. You want to be able to
Mhm.
diversify and be all things to all people, right? Those were
Mhm.
his exact words. So that was the ideology, or it's the ideology behind what is WILDINX, right?
Uh-huh.
WILDINX means artistic versatility. So, you know, as you can see, you know, through the stuff that you're showcasing, I'm bouncing around to different artists, but you can still see uh, the fundamental street art, you
Mhm.
know, base in all of it. So,
Yeah, this too. Yeah, and it's really incredible because the I guess they say the variety is the life. And you know what I really catch on to here is that it's diversity in style, but it's all Kenny.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
you know. So it wasn't until I moved to Florida, you know, some 20 some odd years ago, that I wanted to do something serious with my art,
Mhm.
you know, and I just started doing a lot of networking. I met up with some guys that were really well versed in the convention circuit, so they started taking me along with them to some cons. My first
Mhm.
con was 2008, and it was the very last J Con in Orlando,
Uh-huh.
and man, I dug it. The very first commission that I've ever done at a con, I did it at that one.
Mm.
It was like for
Uh,
$20. It was Inuyasha versus Devilman in pencil,
you
and
taking us back, taking us back. Not only
I'm telling you,
2008, you are a veteran of cons. Uh,
I'm telling you, and the guy that commissioned it, he was dressed, he was cosplaying Devilman, so he
uh-huh.
was obviously a fan, right? And he was really excited when he got his artwork, even though like I was nervous as heck, and
Uh-huh.
I you know I wasn't sure if he was gonna like it, considering that JCon was predominantly an anime sort of con, and at
Mhm.
that point I wasn't doing a lot of like manga and anime stuff,
Right.
so uh the guy was super took a picture with me, you know, and the rush of the excitement of when I hand someone their commission,
Uh-huh.
that's a high like I've never experienced before, you know.
Uh-huh.
So it was highly addictive, and from then I just, you know, it was something that I needed to chase.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you know, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no. I'm just like on bated breath here, trying to like I'm listening to your story, and I have like all these follow-ups to it. But you know what? I'm gonna let you keep on talking your story, and then I'm going to like just have to make mental notes in terms of following up on these experiences because just what you said, I'm just getting
Hmm.
giddy listening to you because it when you talk about it as a high, it's like, hey, you're connecting with somebody with your art. It's 100%.
hundred
It's
percent.
allowing them. It's like what you're doing is you're telling a story, you're connecting with them, and for them to show you that gratitude and that appreciation, it doesn't get any more real than that. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm gonna have to take some mental notes here listening to your story. But keep on going.
Absolutely.
Let's keep on talking. Keep on talking.
So, a few years in, I started sort of like building a clientele base through all the networking contacts that I would make at shows. And, you know, it's at a show where I met my agent, my rep, Phil Russert, in New York at a con. Um, and I've developed relationships with indie publishers like Creature Entertainment. I've done variant covers for them on their Tommy books, and Chronicles of Sharmalazy also. I met Kafalson at a con, who's the writer behind the Grace Fling Chronicles and the Crimson Scarver. Coincidentally, he also commissioned me to draw his character, and like he loved what I did. So, you know, since then, like the relationship with him has been ongoing. Um, so, you know, and it's through those experiences that when I come across artists that are just brand new to the con circuit, and they feel a little discouraged if they don't make a whole lot of money in the weekend, you know, I tell them that it's important to establish these relationships. At a con, you know, you're gonna make one or two things for sure. You're either gonna make a lot of money or you're gonna make some great contacts, right?
Uh-huh.
Very rarely do you walk away with both. But those contacts, based on your interaction, always turn around into something bigger. So, you know, it's
Ah,
important to maintain a big picture attitude when it comes to that.
great advice. Great advice. Yeah.
So,
So
you know,
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
showing off here the upper deck cards, that was a fun story.
Uh,
Coincidentally, I was responding to some messages in my Etsy shop, right, where I get a message from a guy claiming to be a rep from Upper Deck, and the guy was inviting me to do a Marvel set, and I thought the guy was catfishing me. So like I immediately run out and tell my fiance, and you know, because I immediately, I mean, obviously I'm going to be really skeptical. So like, you know, she did some digging, I did some digging, and it turns out the guy was legit, and I
uh-huh.
accepted an offer to do the Marvel anime series. So that was my
Yes.
very first card set under the Marvel Comics license. To date, I'm at like 19. So
19?
that
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it, for the past, I want to say maybe 2 3 years, I've been doing
Uh-huh.
work with them on the side. Um, so that was fun because, you know, it was something that came right in the middle of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and they're fun to do. You know, I like the challenge of sort of doing a deep dive and portraying all these different characters that I grew up reading. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in my own style. You know.
And these are one to one. They're like small scale. So
Yes.
it actually challenges you on another level, because if you're used to doing sequentials, like doing stuff that's 11 by 17, it and you have to do these all traditional too, right? There's no digital aspect to this. This is all
No.
like traditionally
No.
rendered. Yeah.
No, they send me like a block of cards that are all blank.
Uh,
It all reads one of one.
yep.
Excuse me. On the back of every card is a space for my autograph, and it's fun to see the reaction, you know, from like legit card collectors. Like I got DM'd by a guy that found one of my cards in Houston, right, at a card shop,
Hmm.
card and hobby shop. I got messaged by another hobby shop in Michigan, right? They came across
Uh,
one of my cards from Upper Deck, and they found me on Instagram. You know, and the feedback that I've gotten has been fantastic. And you know, one of my friends actually found some of my stuff on eBay, going
Oh
for hundreds
yeah.
of dollars. So that's humbling, being able to see that.
Yeah, it's got to be a treat to like because I guess for me, from being a art appreciator, when I go onto eBay, finding stuff for like artists that I follow, but I can't imagine what the feeling is when you've produced the art, you've got it out there.
Yeah.
You randomly put in Kenny Calderon and look, your sketch card is going there for like, you put obviously your blood, sweat, and tears in there. But I've heard stories. It's like,
Right.
wow, I had no idea that little card could bring that much value. Like somebody
Absolutely.
would put it up there. I think it's still really cool, your story about getting that instant gratification when you're interacting with somebody personally when you do a commission. But it's got to be a high too to see your artwork
Absolutely.
on eBay and then just drawing in that extra money. But yeah,
But I think one of the peak moments was I had punched my name into eBay just out of curiosity, right? I found 4 of my Upper Deck cards. Ricardo's
in the house. Okay.
the beast from Brazil.
Yes, that's right. I forgot. What did they call it? What did Phil call him? The dragon? I forgot what exactly. What he had some wrestling
the
name there. Ricardo
Silva.
the Dragon Silva. Yeah. But we just want to say hi to him because he's kind of like your partner there, or one of your studio mates at Legendary.
Yes.
But I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead and continue your story in terms of eBay.
So just out of curiosity, see what pops up. I saw a bunch of my my Upper Deck cards, and I saw a sketch cover that I did back in like 2016,
right.
which was a sketch cover that I was very proud of. Right, it was a recreation of the Secret Wars George Perez cover, where it's Thanos holding the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yes.
Right, with the Infinity Stones, and it's like death, and then Mephisto on the other side, and then the Avengers along the bottom. So I did a recreation of that with the modern MCU Avengers, right? Wow. And I saw it on eBay, CG Seed 9.8, going for like $2,000.
What?
And I was absolutely mind blown. Absolutely mind
blown. You're like going, maybe I should buy this if it's going for $2,000, It was CGC.
I'm saying.
Well, I mean, that's testament to your skill. Like I said, I have become a bigger fan once you shared me some of your art. And we did the pre-show yesterday, and I got into your mind. We were talking about just your process. We talked about your background, and one of the things that you mentioned in your pre-show. And we're going to talk a little bit about this is the you've been to cons since, I think you mentioned here, since 2008. So you talked about that initial nervousness that you felt, but I'm sure that now we're in 2022. I guess everybody kind of missed out on cons for the last 2 years, but it's ramping up again. Do you still feel like you get those butterflies a little bit in terms of anticipation, in terms of like that nervous excitement? Or are you like calm and cool now, where somebody delivers you a request and you just go, you know what, I got this? I mean, how do you feel? Like, is it a mixed bag?
It is kind of a mixed bag, because I get commissioned to do, sometimes I get commissioned to do some some average stuff, comic stuff, anime, manga stuff, right? But every so often I'll get like the off the wall commission, something that's super off the cuff that I'm not like mentally prepared for. And those will make me a little nervous. But seeing the results and then seeing the client's face when they get the artwork, like that's sometimes that's payment enough. You know what I mean? Like I just did Puerto Rico Comic Con in April, and I got commissioned to do a portrait of one of the con goers and his wife. Like right then and there.
So that's got to be pressure too. Yeah.
Oh, super pressure. I
mean, because now you gotta do likeness. You have to do a likeness. Yeah. It's not even just like a comic, character right there.
Exactly. I mean, I've been doing portraits since I was in middle school, right?
Yeah.
But I don't do a lot of portraits now. So I was pleasantly surprised to find that it was kind of like right riding a bike, and the thing was that the guy was in cosplay. He was cosplaying one of the Mandalorians. He was
Oh,
cosplaying. He was in full cosplay, but his wife was like just kind of there in plain clothes as a civilian, right? So
you're like going, can you put on a Mandalorian helmet too? That would be so much easier to do a likeness, type things. But yeah, I
exactly,
think yeah, you probably just rose to the challenge. You know what? I'm gonna summon up all this experience that I've had, from middle school doing portraits and
exactly.
doing cons since 2008, and you just got into it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I brought my fiance with me. She was very pleased with how it came out. Is that
Uh-huh.
Nate? Nate.
Yeah, we got Nathaniel Feely. He says here, loved Kenny's art ever since I met him at one of those comic cons. I think we're going to get a lot of people that met you at cons here a
Yes.
while back. Been commissioning Call My Cart, Call My, from him ever. Not exactly sure what that
Yeah.
means, but
Uh,
I think
he's
it might have been, he was just, yeah.
he's
Oh,
Nate happens to be one of my longest running clients.
I get you. I
He'll
get you.
always commission stuff from me. If I run into him
Uh-huh.
at a con, he almost always commissions something from me. You know,
Mm.
he
He
and
has
he always has like these really interesting commissions that he'll ask for, right? Like
mhm.
I did one of my favorite ones that I did for Nate was the Shadow, but it was a full wrap sketch cover of the Shadow, right?
Oh my gosh.
Loved it,
Uh-huh.
right? And
Uh-huh.
the second my second favorite that I did for him was the Legacy of Catwoman. So like
Mm-hmm.
it was a Catwoman sketch cover, but it was a full wrap of everyone that's portrayed Catwoman in
What?
media.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
everyone from like Eartha Kitt, Julie Newmar, all the way up to uh, shoot, I'm forgetting her name now. The
Michelle
young lady that
Pfeiffer.
was in no
Yeah, we
past
got
Michelle. The
past
the
Michelle
girl
Pfeiffer.
from Gotham and
Uh-huh.
I'm spacing out on her name. She was in the Nolan movies and
Oh, Anne Hathaway. Is
Anne
that her name?
Hathaway. Anne Hathaway. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So I
Uh-huh.
did all of them on
Yeah.
a full rap cover, so that was fun.
So you're trying to be like, uh, George Perez here, and like, got to put like all multiple characters, set multiple characters on a sketch cover. Of course, George Perez. I think I mean, some of those Crisis covers that he did, where he had like hundreds of characters, but it's always impressive. You can get like likenesses and get multiple, like in
Absolutely,
this case, iterations of Catwoman. But yeah,
absolutely.
I wanted to like put out. There's another comment here. I want to show here. We got this from Andy Vale. Big shout out to my brother Kenny.
Andy, what's up?
Uh, Far Rock Love. I remember those portraits back in our school days. Always been a fan, brother. Keep up with the phenomenal art. That is so true. So yeah, we're
I
we're, we're
appreciate it.
getting a lot of your fans. I think you mentioned. I think there are probably people that have like walls of your heart that they've gotten from commissions, and it's like,
It's
hey,
possible.
you know, they
It's
got
possible.
sketch covers. They're getting your stuff graded. And you do commissions. I'm sure that I don't even know if you were able to do a running tally of like since 2008 how many commissions
Oh
you've done at cons.
no.
Uh, but it's always impressive to show your versatility here. And when you did these cons, I think we want to like talk about. You mentioned this in your earlier in your order stories that you founded this company called WILDINX, and
Mhm.
WILDINX you said was like the mantra, the mission was to do that variety, diversity, and
Yeah.
style, showing lots of different subjects. Everything from the
Mhm.
anime look to the American comic scene. But I remember when you said it to me, it's a group of artists
Mhm.
that promote everything from like you said that street look, that urban look,
Yeah.
clothing, fashion,
Mhm.
even like musicians. Do you want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about this company that you founded and the group
So with
itself? Yeah.
Wildings, I have a couple of guys that work under my brand, Wildings,
Mm-hmm.
and they themselves are diverse artists, right?
Right.
Like Mark Anthony Cherubin, he's a phenomenal photographer, but he also is an illustrator, graphic designer, graphic artist. He has like an incredible eye for design, right? So each one of us under the banner are like a Swiss Army knife of creativity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh, I just wanted to pop up. Please go ahead and tell your story. I just wanted to pop up some of these comments because there's a lot of love
yeah,
from your fan base and your family
I
and your friends that
appreciate
are
it.
coming out here. Yeah,
I
so
appreciate it.
represent.
And
I'm streaming, watching this cast. So there you go. Keep on going.
and the other one is Abel, who's an incredible muralist, graffiti artist, tattooer, uh, you name it. This guy's done it. He's another Swiss Army knife of creativity. So it's something that we pride ourselves on regarding the diversity, right? Like there's no challenge that we're gonna back away from.
All right.
You know, so that's the premise of WILDINX. Being able to be diverse and be all things to all people, right?
Yeah.
And we maintain that attitude of the rising tide raises all ships.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love your philosophy, and we're going to talk about your process too a little bit later on. We actually do the live drawings, but I'm curious. The name WILDINX. Obviously, I get like the ink, incorporated as well as ink as talking to you. You're a penciler, you're a colorist, you're an inker. So I get that. But the wild thing is that because you got a little bit of that wild side that you're bringing down, that New York flavor that you're bringing down to Florida, and you're saying, we got a little bit of a wild. What is the
So
meaning behind WILDINX? Is there something deeper
so
behind it?
so to break it down, wild, meaning that we follow all suits, like
Mm-hmm.
a wild card in a card game.
Ah,
We fit in all the holes, right?
yeah.
And then inks being one of the base mediums of communication. When you write something down, when you draw something, it's all ink at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
make it official. Make it official. Ink your signature there.
exactly. So
I
to kind of separate myself from anyone else that would use ink, INK, I went with X so that I went with INX so that the X would be ambiguous. Also tying back to the diversity and being able to follow all suits.
I love it. I would never have drawn the parallel to like the cards or chance or you know that in terms of being able to be that unpredictable wild card. I think that's just
Yep.
really really neat. And the X thing, the ambiguity, I like that. I would say it's like it just makes me think, I'm a little bit biased because I'm going to think comics. I'm going to go, it's like X-Men. It's like the X
Mm-hmm.
factor. It's like,
Yeah,
the unpredictable nature. It's like
that's it.
you bring
Exactly.
that game that no one's expecting. And
Exactly.
I like it. It's such a neat message. So like I said, yeah, everything that you said in terms of like your philosophy to your process, eating it up, man. That is just so cool. And, we as I was talking to you, we were doing our trying to arrange the pre-show that we did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was talking to you, aside from you being an entrepreneur, you forming your own company, you being a talented illustrator, inker, colorist, one thing that we were just talking about the X-Men. I'm gonna go like deep Professor X on you right here. You're a teacher, you're a mentor.
Yes.
So I'm gonna call you Professor Kenny, Professor K. You mentioned to me that hey, because I normally do my pre-shows in the AM on Saturday, and you said no. Hey, can we move it to the afternoon because I gotta teach? And I was like, gotta teach. That got my mind thinking. I was like, what exactly is he teaching? Is he teaching some sort of martial arts, or is he like something like that? But then it was art related. You're a mentor, you're a teacher, and that's what you had to do. And so we talked a little bit about that during our pre-show yesterday. Let's talk about Kenny as Professor K, as the teacher. So let's hear a little bit from you. What exactly are you teaching?
So I teach comic and cartoon art, to kids and adults, right? Currently I'm teaching at the Art Shack in Miami, in the city of Doral, and I've been there about 4 years, and I love it. And my kids range from 8. I think my youngest is 8, and my oldest is about 23. So and they're very diverse, in skill levels, and my classes are very free form. So I cater how I teach to the individual, right? I go to where they are skill wise, and then we progress upward.
So like how big is a class per se? Like on a day, is it like a
It's
is it
like
like
16 kids.
16 kids? So you're tailoring a session like yesterday. It's not
Yeah.
like you like throw it like this umbrella like project, but then you go to each individual, like if there were 16, and sort of like talk to them individually about how to tackle what like an umbrella project, or it's like every member of that 16 person
Yes,
class, you give them that kind of one-on-one mentorship. Shoot, I need to
absolutely.
move to Miami. I need to take this class. So
Absolutely.
yeah, like describe like yesterday. Like what kind of
So,
experience was it yesterday?
so for example, yesterday, I have a young lady in my class. She's about 15. She's I noticed that her penmanship is excellent, right? Like she's very free when she's building her composition, right? For those that don't know, composition is how we organize the elements of our artwork on the page, right? So it's kind of like setting the table before dinner. You know what I mean?
Ah,
Setting down
preach.
the placemats, setting down, you know what I'm saying? The flatware,
It's
right?
right. Gotta get the appetizer ready to go. I think that's what you were
Exactly.
talking. You're like helping it ready to go. All right. So
So
yeah.
her composition was great. Her lines were really free. She's very sketchy, but then she would like stop there, right? So based on what I saw, I proposed a challenge on cleaning up her lines so that she conveys a very clear message to her audience. And she looked at me a little confused, and I'm like, okay, pretend I'm not an artist, right? And I'm an admirer of your work. I love what you're doing, but based on what I'm seeing on this page, I can't tell what's what. So this looks like one thing when you could interpret it as something else, or meant to have interpreted it as something else, right?
Uh-huh.
So I kind of coached her into like sort of cleaning up her lines, and now we're doing ink work, right? Where she like hates doing ink work because she's compelled to sketch her lines, and I'm like, see, now you have to train yourself to throw the line in one stroke. You can choose to
Uh-huh.
push the pen or drag the
Uh-huh.
pen, but it's got to be done in one stroke. So
I think
it's
this
I'm
15-year-old
sorry.
is me. I think I'm just saying that I'm listening to you, and she is just like me in terms of that. Yeah, I'm listening because I'm actually learning from this right now. So you're teaching her to like think of the stroke, to be deliberate, right?
Correct.
To like be
Correct. It's
yeah,
got to
yeah.
be deliberate, and it's got to be done in confidence, right?
Mm,
Because I'm pretty sure that you, as an appreciator of art, and anyone who's
uh,
tuning into this now, um, who is an artist or a creator or an appreciator of the craft, you can tell when someone has phoned something in. You can
yes.
tell when like they weren't 100%, with their work. You know what I mean? Like they weren't
Mm-hmm.
into it, or they weren't. They were kind of shaky about it. So when it comes to inking, right?
Uh-huh.
Inking is one of the more therapeutic parts of illustrating for me, right? So
Uh-huh.
when I put the line down, I'm doing
Uh-huh.
it with confidence, right?
I have to say that not for me. That's like stress inducing anxiety. I have to get to your level, but I understand what you're talking about because you mentioned confidence. It's like the
Yeah.
loose sketch, even the tighter pencils, that's the exploratory stage. And when it gets to the
Yes.
inking stage, you've laid the foundation. I guess we're past the appetizer. We're going to the main course now because the table's
That's
been
right.
set. And this is for you. you talk about it being therapeutic. I need to get to that therapeutic level, but that's where you're already you're digging in there. So like, yeah, you're talking about the line. So like, let's hear about how you approach it, because I'm listening. I'm taking notes here. So
So you know, when I build my composition, I know that like the other night when I was doing the legendary live stream, you know, there were some comments about my line art in the very beginning being very, very light. And it's because even now, with all the years that I have under my belt doing art, I'm very, very sketchy. I'm very loose when I'm building my composition. You guys will see it today, right? But when I'm happy with my composition, now I'll start to sort of pull my lines out of that composition with some clean pencils. So once I got my clean pencils in, you know, I'll start laying in my ink. Now it's typically in my ink work that I'll start laying in shadows. I don't map out my shadows beforehand.
Right.
So that's like when we were talking yesterday, I told you that not all of it is planned, not all of it is intentional. You know,
Right.
I build my, like, particularly with this piece here. This is one of my recent ones. It's Rita Farr from Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
The shadows and how I wanted to make her suit look like patent leather, kind of shiny, right?
Right.
All that was improv.
Well, I think when I look at this, this is learning more of the process. We're going to get to see that when we get to the live drawing thing. Of course, I don't think we're going to throw down some colors or anything like that, but I like what you're going to, because you're going to be doing traditional work. What I like about this piece, and like I think what you're saying here is you get that loose energy when you're doing the foundation, right? And then when you're not necessarily thinking about like where the rendered light source is yet until you get to the, you know, you do your tidying pencils, and then when you get to the inks, that's when you kind of decide. And it's more of like an organic thing. You're relying on the kind of like the years of mastery. I mean, that you mastery and the experience that you're calling upon, and then you render like that light source, maybe in the coloring aspect of it, or you know, maybe the inks get more refined and defining. You sort of like just make that judgment call right when you're starting.
It kind of tells me, you know, it's like
the art's talking to you. That's what you're saying,
yeah,
right?
it
Kind of
kind
like
of tells me. So, for example, it's like using this piece as an example, right? I don't map out my shadows beforehand. So when I'm inking, I start to like map out my shadows, right? So once I got my shadows in, based on how those shadows are laid into the piece, now I know how to color. Now I know how to approach it color wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
sort of,
like that approach. Yeah.
yeah. So you know, not all of it is intentional. At the end of the day, you want your artwork to be honest, right, and to be genuine to you as an individual, you as a creator, and so on and so forth, right? It's got to feel like a piece of you is in there, right? So it'll be obvious if you're intentionally trying to mimic someone else. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I let it just kind of come to me. You know what I mean?
I have to say though, like,
But you
you know,
know,
we
at
were
the
going.
end of the day, it's all in the context.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's the diversity of style that you can do. But like I said, it's all Kenny. You know, when you look at these things, and it's nice to hear that process. That everything that you do, I think, has it's intentional. There's a plan behind it, but you also talked about an organic process that also you let seep in and let the art talk to you. Because that's another thing that you mentioned to me, is that you also approach things not only methodically, but it's organic. It's an organic process, and you also want to tell a story with everything that you do, whether it's a pinup, whether it's sequential. Your art has to say something. And you know, it was interesting listening to you talk. Is that even the art speaks to you? You know, as you're drawing it, you know, you don't necessarily have it all mapped out, but you're kind of like letting the lines as they get formulated. You're seeing like, hey, you know, it's telling me that I should kind of do this, and
Yes.
it's like it's a perfect balance here that I'm hearing is that there's a bit of planning, but there's also a bit of free form here. And I guess that just goes back to the WILDINX mantra here in terms of being able to put those two things together. I'm learning. Absolutely. You're teaching me, Sensei. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely listening to this. So we're looking at this fan art, and I mentioned to you yesterday we were doing the pre-show that we just sort of like stumbled upon this piece because we got to see a version of a inked piece as well as a colored piece. I'm gonna be since this is the show that I'm running, and I wanted to kind of go back to a piece that I was particularly drawn to, and I can't remember if this is more of a recent one or an older one, but I've kept up. I mean, I wasn't like a super Green Arrow fan. When they did the Arrow TV show with Stephen Amell, and I'm going to refer to the earlier seasons because it kind of went a little sideways in the later seasons. But I love the very first few seasons, and it made me want to go back. And because I went back and read some of the older, Green Arrow stories. But when I saw this, just completely drawn to it. I looked at it aside from because this I think is a perfect example of all the philosophies that we talked about earlier, but we also incorporate graphic design. I'm biased because I wish that I could say that I went your route and decided to be completely passionate and throw myself into like doing the kind of art that you're doing. I went to commercial graphic design, and I see this piece, and it's a perfect blend of that. You have the comic art, you have the compositional elements. It is primarily green, but you've worked in the color theory in there, but you put those arrows in the back, which is the graphic design. I mean, rather than you could have done all sorts of different backgrounds, but this to me is like could be a poster or a print, something that could be broken down into a T-shirt because it speaks to me from a graphic design standpoint. So I have this up here. That's my impression. What was your thoughts behind doing this great illustration of Ollie here? I just love it.
So this was a commission piece, right? The line art was a commission piece, right? And it was commissioned in a full blank of Batman 24. So for those that aren't aware, the Batman 24 blanks were completely blank. Like the covers and the whole interior was blank. So the client commissioned for me to fill the book, right? He gave me a character list, and whatever was left over, he was like, Kenny, you pick, right? So
go to town.
GA was GA was one of the characters that he commissioned. Now, so I took a really good scan of it, and around that time, my fiance had just bought the iPad, like a new big iPad,
Pro.
Right?
A Pro model,
so
right?
like the big 12 by
12 inch,
the big 12-inch one, right?
Yeah.
And she got Procreate, and I wanted to try my hand at coloring in Procreate. So I colored this completely in Procreate, and but it felt like there was too much real estate behind him.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought about what would fit, sort of like the flow of this piece, considering that, he's very portrait, and I thought of something going, to kind of break that flow going diagonal. And I figured, let's do some arrows, right? And the arrows I did on the fly, and I wanted to use the different green values, in that backdrop, so that it's not overbearing, right? Like it's not too much green.
Yeah.
But it's a nice balanced piece as far as
it color is. And I have to say too, listening to your story, you coming from New York, and you said some of your earliest inspirations was that graffiti style. And it's almost like, the popularity of like Miles Morales and Into the Spider-Verse and him being a street artist himself. I can almost kind of see this as like, it's not a wall back there, but it has that graffiti. It's like you're pulling on, again, it's pulling in on your experience, the things that you really enjoyed while in your youth that drew you into art. And here it is, it's manifesting in this capacity. And yeah, this is what you were mentioning about building a good composition. I look at this and I'm a big fan of like the worm's eye point of view. I think it adds a bit of dynamic quality, and you're not going a super extreme worm's eye view, but that alone, by putting the camera a little bit up, from below shooting up, it adds. It's a pinup, it's a portrait, but you've added that bit of dynamic quality to it, which makes it very engaging to me. And yeah, so by far this is one of my I love all your pieces, but this one I was particularly drawn to because as a graphic designer I can appreciate the thoughts that you went into it. It's very difficult too, because when you color this, you said this is your first time using Procreate. Color theory is a very hard thing to do, and when you're doing something that's fairly monochromatic, you run the risk of it just looking like a big blob of just one color, and this reads well, and I'm glad that you're able to share it. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about this. This is my little my bias here to be able to look at that. But before we talk a little, we're going to be getting ready to go into some live drawing. I just wanted to maybe give you an opportunity of this art. You gave me 33 pieces of fan art. Is there any other piece that you want to kind of I know you said you had a story to go along with every one of these, but if you could pick one, which one? Which one would you like to dig a little deeper into? Which one would you like to say something? You want me to flash through them and refresh your memory, and you can just sort of tell me when to stop? We can kind of do that.
I can pick. I can
okay, pick one. Yeah, which one?
You know what? The Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. Let me see if I can
go back.
I pass that one. This one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm gonna let you tell me about this because I got my own thing on this. I really like it. But yeah, go ahead and tell me a little bit about this.
The Mr. Freeze was part of that Batman 24 commission. Oh, right. It's one of the pieces that's in the book. Right. And I didn't want to depict the character in a villainous way, because at the end of the day, Mr. Freeze, his intentions are valid, right, for why he is the way he is, but he's one of those really well written villains, right? He's very emotional, very tragic, right? So
that's what I was gonna say. Tragic. That's a good way to define him. Yeah.
So I wanted to depict him in a very emotional way, and it's the only piece in this commission that was done in this manner. I wanted to depict him in a very emotional way, right? I wanted for it to feel intimate, right? So I went with very minimal color. So that it feels cold, right? Like the temperature of the art feels cold. I went with a lot of cool grays with just the splash of red. And I used a lot of negative space, right? So that, the blacks sort of pull you in, but you're sort of enthralled by the space between his face and the snow globe. You know what I mean? You're kind of caught right there. So this piece was one of my favorites out of all those out of all the 24 some odd pieces that I did in that book. Right?
I have to say that when I look at this, it's everything that you said and more, because I think it has this nice. You mentioned about the color and the composition. We have a Mr. Freeze, cold, mechanical. We see this, I guess, juxtaposition or this comparison. You have these really, aside from the diagonal that we have with his arm, which is outstretched out of there, but it's a combination of that coldness, and then you have, even though it's a snow globe, you have the figurine that's in the snow globe.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things. It is tragic. You sense there's emotion here. This is the storytelling that you were talking about.
Absolutely.
Using those shadows to kind of really allow the foundation of the composition to be there. But it tells the story. There's a sense of like loneliness.
Yes.
But the red there too. I have to say that the red was an interesting choice to me. I thought maybe like a cyan blue or something like electric blue. I think that would have been. I think that might be too cliche, but I kind of see the red too. You chose red, and that red is a very passionate color. So I think in the storytelling, you were maybe saying, well, this is his love, the tragic story of Mr. Freeze, and he's not. The red doesn't look like he's angry. It just looks like he's looking and he's longing for being reunited. With his
exactly that warmth that once was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh! I just had to say, I wish that whoever that guy who commissioned you for that, he probably got a steal. I can't imagine what you charged him for it, but to have a book of 24 pages of just stuff like this is quite amazing. I'm glad you got to share this the story behind this. So I've really flashed through a lot of art here. I'm going to actually pop up the comment field one more time. I want people to know this, not to go there just yet, but I want to show this. This is how you can follow Kenny, because you can see more artwork just like this, and engage him, follow him, interact with him. I'm sure that Kenny would be more than happy to tell you the story, because you're not just going to get a beautiful illustration. There's going to be a story behind it. If you want to commission him, tell him what that story is, and I'm sure that he can easily translate that to paper, whether it or digital. He's very versatile at doing that as well. But this is something that you can look for in all of Kenny's work. So note that. I'm going to pop that up a little bit later on. Before we get to the live drawing, I want to pop up some comments here. So because there are some people here that are just big fans of you here. So we got Keith Wade. Kenny is Kenny is amazing, incredible artist that brings these worlds to life on the page. Amen. That is so true. But as powerful as his gift is, his character as a human being is just so strong, or just as strong. His ability to work with and inspire the people he works with is second to none. I tell you, there's nothing but love on this show for you, Kenny.
That's humbling. That's humbling. That's Keith. He's the writer creator of Chronicles of Charmalaise, AWP.
Ooh.
That's Keith.
Yeah, and we heard about, you mentioned that in your origin story about these things. And so, you know what? Before we get to the live drawing, let's do some just some brief examples of some IPs, that you've worked with. So we're going to briefly show some of those things, because I know I'm itching to get into that live drawing, but I just want to follow up on that, especially when we had that comment. So we showed the fan art and we showed the sketch cards. And so you said the Chronicles of
Charmalaise,
yes, I didn't want to say it because I was going to mispronounce it for sure. But it's AWP.
That's why I caught you. I jumped in there.
See, exactly. Thanks for rescuing me. But here we go. We got AWP. It's A Warrior's Path. You mentioned that this was a novel, and you were approached by the author to take it to that next level. I think you said you did some illustrations for the novel, which are like the prequels, but you took it to that next level, because now the further stories are going to be done in a comic form. So you want to talk a little bit about that? Is that accurate?
For I think about almost a year, Keith had been asking around for a comic book artist, and everyone kept saying, "You got to go talk to Kenny. You got to go talk to Kenny," right? Until this is how small the world is. 6 degrees of separation. Keith is buddies with Creature Entertainment, which were at one point my studio mates, right? And I've been doing variant covers for them, and he's been all around to all these different shows until he actually shows up at an event, right? Completely serendipitous, and runs into me, and he goes, "What's your name?" I'm like, "I'm Kenny Calderon." And he goes, "Oh, you're the one I've been hearing about." Right?
Your reputation preceded yourself. So he
Yeah,
heard through the
so
grapevine who you are, right? Yeah.
he took a look at my work. He dug what I was doing, and he told me about what he wanted to get off the ground. So, A Warrior's Path is a novel that he wrote, uh, that's got a lot of influences in science fiction, Afrofuturism. So, if the best way that I could describe it is kind of like Star Wars meets Black Panther, right?
Uh,
Where it does include some mysticism, but the main character is a female lead.
right.
So when he told me that, I was all over it, right? And
Yeah.
when he shot me the script for the first book, I'm like, yeah, I'm all about this because it was like super violent, and there was a lot of like action set pieces, right? And
Uh-huh.
one thing that I love doing is sequential art of action, like
Yeah. Check this
because
out. Uh,
I love storyboarding the sequence in a way where it's plausible and convincing, right?
mhm,
So like my lizard brain, like I love seeing things move in my head. So
mhm.
you know it's already like a movie as I start storyboarding everything, and it feels like you can see this on the big screen.
Absolutely.
So
I
that first one was fun as hell, and I'm currently wrapping up pages on issue 2 of
mm.
Chronicles. So it's been a great ride.
so so you said you're working on issue 2. Is issue 1 available at those links that I heard earlier, or do they have to go
Uh,
to a certain site if they want to
they
like
can go
read
to
versus
awpthenovel.com.
AW? Okay, awpthenovel.com
Correct.
if you want to get issue 1. Because look at this. I think you had me at Star Wars plus Black Panther.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, two great IPs and fused into one. I mean, I see this and it's like we talked about this during the pre-show. It's like there's plenty of I think artists that can really do a good pinup. And I think that and there are plenty of artists that can actually build a page, but can do a page where every panel has a story where you can take that pinup, make every panel sing and tell a complete story. It's like you were talking about your lizard brain. I kind of laughed at that because your lizard brain is awesome lizard brain because you're looking at this from a almost like I think with a comic book artist, it's like it's not as appreciated art form as it should be, because when you're building a sequential page, you are the director. You're
Yeah.
controlling those camera angles, and I think that's why, um, especially even if you look at some of the uh, successful Marvel movies, DC movies, especially
Yeah.
ones that kind of adapt stories that were done by kind of been explored by comic artists, in the last decade.
Right.
You will see like frames that are almost taking verbatim from from the sequential, from the sequential
Absolutely.
comic that's based from. And I look at this too. I think that I say this with a lot of my guests, but when there's the AWP like Netflix movie, or who knows if this goes like, it's like they're gonna go to Kenny and say, "Hey, Kenny, oh, we loved what you did in there. Help us storyboard. Let's help us get that because we want to recreate that frame that you did here." This is
And,
uber
and
violent, of course, but it's just
yeah,
really I can see
that's
this as a
That's one
as a
of the
movie.
reasons why I love the Daredevil Netflix show so much, because one of the
Uh-huh.
very, very first comics I ever read, one of the very, very first ones, was Frank Miller's
Uh-huh.
run on Man Without
Yep.
Fear. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
that was the book that pulled me in,
Uh-huh.
right? And his use of light and shadows, and just the way he would depict the fight set pieces, I was completely enthralled in it. So I bring a lot of my influences into how I do comic art, right? So with each page, anyone who's worked with me knows I'm very meticulous on how I storyboard and lay out my panels, simply because depending on what's going on in that scene, right? You guys as the reader should feel, not just read it, but like feel the momentum, the aggression. If it's something chaotic, it should like you should feel that chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you're progressing through the panel art. So
I feel this. I feel this.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, keep on going.
So I you know
uh,
I draw influence from some of my favorite from some of my favorite books as well as artists, right? Like one of the more outstanding examples of panel art and control of page flow was the death of Superman.
oh yeah.
Right? So, when Superman's going to blows with Doomsday in the very beginning of the death of Superman, right? You had the typical 7 panel minimum, right? In the very beginning as they were going to blows. But as the fight drew more intense, right, the art gets more intimate, it's more visceral, and you see less panels on the page. So it's like the reader has time to breathe, to absorb what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
it turns into full page splashes, 2 page splashes. You see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? So like the impact resonates with the reader. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like I tell my kids in class all the time that everything in comics is done intentionally.
Yeah.
None of it is an accident.
I
So
yeah, I like what you're talking about because we're getting a little bit of Masterclass 101 with the Professor K here, talking about um, analyzing the death of Superman because it's translating. We see like these shots, these sequentials that you're taking some of that same mentality, that same formula, that same process, and incorporating into your artwork here too. And that's the
absolutely.
beauty of sequential art. You unless you have like a bunch of Mona Lisas all lined up and they're telling a story. You're not going to get that
Right.
same thing with a sequential story with panels because, we talked about that too. It's like, it's not only what's inside the panel, it's how the panels are arranged, how the panels are
Right.
shaped. If you decide to break the panel and, these are the complexities of sequential art. And I have to say, even looking at this, these are just really good examples of what Kenny brings to the table when he's thinking, as the director, composing his pages. So here we got AWP, Warrior's
Mhm.
Path, but we're also going to talk about this, which is also another brilliant IP that you were asked to help with and do character designs and sequentials.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about this? I'm going to let you hand the
Sure.
mic back to you and tell us about this.
So this is Grace Flynn. It's written by Kafalson, who's an incredible fantasy writer.
Mm-hmm.
I actually ran into him at a con, and the next slide is the piece that he commissioned me to do at that con.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha.
that was the first time I've ever drawn his character,
Mm-hmm.
and it resonated with him so much that he's like, this is the guy, I need him to like do my first comic. So
Uh-huh.
on the Crimson Scarver, it's about 40 pages long. Uh, I did pencils on the first 20 pages, and I worked with inkers Steve Leidick, who is very well known in the con circuit. For the second 10, it was Peter Palmiotti, who's famed DC, Marvel, and
Yeah,
fellow
I've heard the name.
legendary artist, right?
Uh-huh.
And for the last 20 pages, I penciled and inked those.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, well, particularly this story, was given to me in prose. It wasn't broken down in a script.
Oh,
So yeah, so I read through
that's
it.
a challenge in itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun. I mean, because he gave it to me and he said, Kenny, let me know what you think about the story. He just wanted my feedback. So as I read through it, I'm like, Phil, his name is Phil. So I'm
Uh-huh.
like, Phil, this would make a great book. This would make a great comic because like I can see the panels as I'm reading this.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, if you think it would work well, go for it. right? So, I immediately started to, as I went through the paragraphs, started storyboarding the main parts that would be showcased in panels.
I have to
So,
say, it totally makes sense now, because we've gone from AWP, where we just showed like this, use the word visceral,
yeah,
this whiz bang, like brawling,
yeah,
super energetic, panel work.
mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned this was prose, and I have to say, I'm looking at this. It shows like another style of Kenny here, is that you, it's storytelling, the quiet moments.
Yes.
As she's dressing up, and and I like how, I don't know whose idea was this, an idea that you came up with too, to do lettering this way, because these are not.
No,
It
that
could
was
easily
Phil.
be like a. Oh, it was okay. Well,
Yeah.
credit to both of you working together here, because it's like, looking at it, it's like you could do the word bubbles, or you could kind of like the thought bubbles, or maybe like
Mm-hmm.
have some sort of quiet where she's like talking to herself. But this adds, the lettering itself here is adding to the storytelling. And
Yeah.
now that you mentioned it, it was derived from prose. That
Yeah.
goes to you, being able to take that, translate that into a sequential page. And I like this. I see this preparation, and I'm like, where she's getting dressed here. Often this is kind of used like in a like a, I'm going to use like a sci-fi, or maybe like a medieval like knight who's getting ready for battle, and you see them like putting on their wrist gauntlets, or their
Uh-huh.
putting on their gun belt or something like that. This
Right.
is kind of like that same thing, but it's
That's
every
exactly what this
panel
is.
has, yeah, but every panel, I mean, this, in this particular setting, you're doing that same thing, the preparation. And then I like how you've even incorporated aspects of the background, tell the story of like her chambers.
Right.
She is, I think you mentioned to me, she's supposed to be like a this kind of character. She's supposed to be the most dangerous female
She's the
pirate.
most dangerous woman alive, right?
Yeah, in that
So
time period. Yeah.
these are the first, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 pages of the comic. So
Yeah.
it serves as an introduction to those that haven't read or aren't familiar with Grace, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's a steady buildup of her putting on the boot, putting on her vest,
Yeah.
etc., right? So
Uh-huh.
that we get the big reveal with her standing in front of the mirror putting on her tricorn hat, right?
Yeah.
And then her first mate Seaton comes into the room to hand her a note that came for her, right?
Uh-huh.
She seems very displeased with what the contents are. She lights it
Uh-huh.
on fire and drops it in her chamber pot, right?
Yeah.
So as she walks out of the room, we get that steady zoom in of a symbol that's on the letter, and the
Uh-huh.
symbol pertains to that of her arch nemesis Nereus Neptune.
Ooh, here we go. So if that isn't like intriguing enough, so like this particular, is this issue completed? Can people go buy this, or is this still in the works? Like this
Well,
this
it's
particular.
actually it came out 2018, 2019.
Oh, it's been out for a
So
while.
it's
Okay,
been out for
yeah.
a while. So there's talks there's been talks between me and Kafalson regarding doing a reprint run, right?
Uh
Because
huh.
these are completely sold out.
Yep.
So we're gonna do like a sort of an anniversary drop where it'll be the original 40 plus some additional content, an added story, and maybe 10 pages of additional comic art. Sort of capping this story and then introing a new story.
Mm. I'm intrigued. I like this. Just the symbol. We have the symbolism of her lighting it on fire and actually putting it in a chamber pot. So you're like, for those of
Yeah.
you who don't know what a chamber pot, look it up. So she doesn't think too highly about that, about this message, but the symbolism here, well, actually, it's literal symbolism. You have her. This is going to be her, I guess, her nemesis. This is a
Yes.
symbol of that. So yeah, gotta check that out. And I love this particular battle scene, because yeah, we just went through that whole establishing sequence pages, just saying her character, her
Yeah.
actual chambers, and then It's a quiet moment, and then she kind of leaves angry. You're telling a story that's not action based. But then we have this shot, so you
Yeah.
can look forward to this these kind of battles.
Well,
Very cool.
In these pages, it leads up into a huge action set piece where like her and Nereus raid the Tower of London, and like I'm kind of proud of that sequence because again I got to be pro, so it's really cool.
Okay, so that means you got to buy the issue. Yeah, you got to.
I got to try to get you some behind the scenes stuff on that.
No, okay.
But this shot, this is one of my favorite shots of all the art that I've done for Cathalsin regarding Grace Flynn. This piece right here is by far one of my favorites, right? And it's her battling a group of bandits outside of her ship, the Locathea. So the thing is that her scarf is sentient, right? Because I mentioned that in the world of Grace Flynn, there's mysticism and there's steampunk elements.
Yeah.
So in the books, there are vampires, werewolves, zombies, witch doctors, etc. So the scarf has a symbiotic relationship with Grace, right?
Oh wow!
So the scarf reacts to blood being spilled. So as Grace battles an opponent, right? If she manages to cut the opponent, the scarf will soak up the blood, will act on it, soak it up, and for as long as the scarf is wet with the opponent's blood, Grace retains their skill set.
Oh, that's so cool. I was like thinking that's like next level. It's like I was thinking, oh, it's kind of like Doctor Strange's cloak or Spawn's cape, but no, this scarf,
sort of.
This scarf. I mean, those have nothing on this scarf. This scarf is.
That's why I depicted the scarf like actually fighting with her in the shot.
Right. Well, there's a purpose for it actually even being red because it's soaking the blood. I mean, there's a. I like the lore that you and the author have come up with this and being able to to represent what was done in the by the author to symbolize it, because I think when you look at it, I was just so taken by the composition. I thought she was just like kind of like whipping it around, like if you watch like a Chinese martial arts movie, they can use any like clothing as a weapon, and I was thinking, well, maybe that's like that's a kind of stylized choice. But now that you're talking about it being sentient, it's just like another level to it. But incredible. Again, this is an example of you penciled, inked, and colored this piece too, right? This is all because I think you mentioned how you had throughout the pages, you kind of had like a lots of different talent that ink things, and then of course when it got to the last few pages, you ended up doing all the inking as well, right? So. Just really cool stuff.
Thank you.
And got to check this out. Look forward to like maybe that anniversary edition that could potentially come out. So got to like and follow Kenny so you can know when this particular remaster is. Okay, I've been like so enthralled in here. I know we need to get to some drawing. So I want to save because you work with another Phil. That Phil, in fact, Phil is actually in the comment field. He's on right now. This is Philip Russer.
Yeah, he's a Jersey.
He says, I'm at a convention and can't hear you guys, but Kenny rocks. I couldn't agree more. You know what? I'm going to actually break. We're going to talk about that particular collaboration because you are under Legendary Illustrations, but you also did some work for his IP. But let's save that for after we do some live drawing because I'm itching to show some of that right now. So, if you're in our audience, before I do that, I just want to like pop up a couple more comments here. We have this. This is from my partner in crime. He's Joe Tolliver. He's in Korea serving our country. He said hello everyone, and he was listening to like our banter back and forth, and he mentioned here, what is it? Show this. He says that's how you do it, and I'm assuming he's referring to everything, anything that Kenny has done. That's how you do it. You got to do it that way. You got to be methodical. You got to be deliberate. You got to be intentional with purpose.
And hope he gets back safe.
Yeah. We're all praying for him there. He's just beginning his. I think he's going to be there for a year. So comics cast, and we're going to be representing on both sides of the planet. You know, me here in the United States and him in Korea. But through the wonders of the internet, you know, we can make it happen. So if you're in our audience, this is the part of the show that's a little bit different from other normal interviews. We're going to be doing the draw and talk. We did the talk part. We're going to be doing the draw part right now. So the first subject that we're going to do, we're going to get to see Kenny do his magic. We talked yesterday, and we are going to be doing Mike Mignola's Hellboy. And I believe this was something that was suggested to him, to Kenny, like maybe on some other other shows, and I think he's been wanting to do his version of Hellboy. We're going to listen to a little bit about Kenny's, his reason for wanting to do this. You know, maybe there's some hidden secrets or stories that he wants to talk about. You know, how Mike Mignola influenced him, or Hellboy. You know, like why that Hellboy is so significant to him. But I want to encourage our audience to draw along with us. If you're out there, post it or let me know in the comment field that you're going to be doing it, and then post it to our sister page, which is the Art Show on Facebook, and that way I can share it. We're going to start the clock at, let's say we're going to be doing, let's start at 15 minutes, and I'm going to solo out Kenny's art cam. We're going to switch his face cam to his art cam, and that way you can see the magic happen, and we'll start out first with like have Kenny talk about the process, his process, because he does have this really light stroke, light touch he does with the blue line before he gets to it. So I'm going to let him talk about that. And then later on, after he's done that, we'll talk about Hellboy, you know, what this character is to Kenny. So Kenny, if you want to go ahead and switch to your art cam, I'm going to slow that out. And I'm going to be drawing along with him, and I will start the clock once we get all those cams ready to go. And hopefully there'll be some audience participation, and we can share your art. You can get a little bit of feedback from Kenny. And we're going to have some fun. So if you don't know who Hellboy is, just do your Google search. There's plenty of artists that have done interpretations of it. You know, there's the movie version. I think there's 2 movie versions of him. And, you know, of course, Mike Mignola, he did his take on it. Very cool, like, you know, very iconic, geometric, positive, negative, noir look. But let's go from there. All right, so let me solo out your cam. And I'm going to let Kenny talk a little bit about his process. And the clock starts right now.
So with every drawing, as I mentioned, I like to use a non-photo blue just because I'm really sketchy when I'm building my composition. So in the composition phase, I just kind of want to organize where everything is going to go, you know, right before I start laying in my my clean pencil lines, right? Mm-hmm. So in this phase, you know, I have the freedom to kind of just test out how it feels. You know, I'm not tied or tethered to anything in this phase. But before I approach it, I almost always have like an idea of what posture I want to put the character in, or what kind of composition I want to work on. So in this case, I want to do sort of a Hellboy prone, you know, holding his pistol, you know, so that I can exemplify the big stone fist, right, in the shot, and then sort of have like his trench coat sort of bellowing, right, and then, you know, show a bit of his tail in the back. But although, like I'm a big fan of anything that's noir, right? So I draw inspiration from Frank Miller's work, you know, his Sin City stuff, his Daredevil stuff, Mike Mignola, of course, right? Just anything in that vein, like even like the noir Spider-Man books were done really well. I just love the use of light and shadow, you know, when it's done expertly. I even dug the Batman black and white books, right?
Those were great. Yeah.
They weren't written exceptionally well, but I really liked the use of black and white. In you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So sometimes you just got to appreciate the art. Sometimes I follow artists more than authors. So like,
Mhm.
and you know, the stories may not be like you said all that great, but you know, it's something for like seeing your favorite artist interpret it, right?
True. So I've always been fascinated with it. So that was one of the reasons behind uh, Grace Flynn being in black and white. It's meant to sort of capture that pulp comic vibe,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you know, not distract the reader so much with colors and lighting effects and all, you know. It sort
Mm-hmm.
of keeps it very organic when it's done in black and white. Just gonna blow through this really quick, right? So I can get into some clean pencils, right? I don't want to linger on this part too long, but I'm gonna do this Hellboy in my style, as they say.
Yeah, I have to resist, like with all my guests, I have to resist the urge to look up and see what you're doing. I had to watch what they do after the show. I only get to see the
Yeah,
final product like live. I mean, like you know, when we showcase it at the end of the drawing session. But I can just, I'm gonna have to just listen, and I can hear your
yeah.
strokes being laid down, and it's just making me like just want to look up and see what you're doing. It's like that. So. All right, so we heard a little bit about your process. You know, we talked a little bit about not only do you do the loose blue lines, but you know, once you start putting those more solid pencils, and I don't know if you're going to get to the inking stage yet, but
I
it'd be
may.
neat. You know, yeah, we're just play it by ear. We're gonna
Yeah,
let it happen organically. But we'll shift the subject a little bit about Hellboy in particular, like why you picked him. You know, you did mention that you're a fan of that noir look. And I assume that you're a fan of Mignola. So like,
of
what was there
course.
anything that in particular that kind of that drew you to it? Like, you want to share anything about like, was it just you know, just tell me, yeah, tell me exactly what
It,
what made you want to do him.
it was really just his art style, you know,
Mhm,
and the way he uses light and shadow.
mhm,
You know, because I don't have to say, you know, as a comic fan, you know, you're drawn to comics by the pictures. You know,
mhm.
the writing is what keeps you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it just looked so obscure and so uh not the norm that it kind of drew me in. So you know, I picked it up and I saw that it was, you know, it's this character that's meant to, you know, bring about the end of the world and so forth, but you know he doesn't know that it's like Goku from Dragon Ball,
Oh yeah. Uh huh.
or or you know, like another Superman story, you know what I'm saying? You know,
Yeah.
he's meant to be a harbinger of death, but you know he's fighting for the side of good. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even though that was kind of tropey, like I still dug the fact that he did it with a character like this, you know,
Mhm,
and how he's very childlike,
mhm.
you know, despite, you know, being up against like some nightmare fuel.
Well, you know, I have to agree with you. Yeah, it may seem a little tropey, but you mentioned Superman. You know, like he could be the savior or bring about Armageddon, but to make it in the form of you know, Superman doesn't look devilish.
True.
So except when his eyes turn like it's one of those things that when he gets with the way they've been doing the modern versions of him, when his eyes light up, it definitely looks sinister. But you know, it's sort of like don't piss off Superman. But it makes you realize that yeah, he could easily be a harbinger of doom himself. And with Hellboy, just his name, Hellboy, you know, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely makes you think of things. And he's a good guy. So you know,
Yeah.
you're like going, well, what does he bring to the table? And then the brilliance is like you could. There's been things where you have like you know supposed like demon like characters who end up being a force for good, but then Mike
Of
Mignola
course.
goes, you know what? I'm going to give him a stone, you know, hand or you know like and that just adds like another level to it. So it doesn't become tropey after that. It becomes a new
True.
character.
True.
So I think that's just really neat how he's able to do that. So we're talking about how successful this has been, and I mentioned how there's been like 2 movie versions that have come out. Are you drawn to like any particular movie interpretation of Hellboy? Do you like
I
the
really
earlier
like
version?
I love the
The
Ron
Ron
Perlman.
Perlman?
Ron
Mhm.
Perlman as Hellboy, like there's no other Hellboy for me.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I have to agree with you. And I actually haven't even watched the David Harbour version. I heard it got so much negative press
Yeah,
that I
me
actually
either.
don't even want. I didn't even really want to watch it. So,
Me
have you
either.
seen it? Have you seen it? Oh,
No,
so you
not at
haven't seen
all.
it either.
I
Okay,
haven't
so
seen it
you're like
either.
you're a purist. You want to go keep it
Yeah,
with Ron Perlman, right?
because even though I know that those first 2 films were 2 different directors,
Mhm.
but you know, I love them both. I mean, Guillermo del Toro is an incredible director.
Yes.
I loved what he did with Hellboy. I would have been completely on board with him doing another Hellboy. I loved what he did with the second Blade movie.
Hmm.
You know,
Did you
and
watch Pan? Did you watch
shoot,
Pan's Labyrinth? Pan's Labyrinth?
oh,
Did you see that one?
I hell yeah, like
That was
my,
like
my
that was a love letter to just art. Art on film.
of course, oh,
I think that a
absolutely,
lot of people didn't quite get it, but to me, it was like it was almost not to say it was a vanity. I think that a lot of people just didn't see that coming, from Guillermo del
hmm
Toro, and I'm glad that he did it because it was so different, and the effects were just brilliant.
oh, absolutely spot on, absolutely spot on. Like my fiance Melissa, shout out to her. She loves watching foreign movies. So it was during that whole pandemic where she really got into watching a lot of foreign film. So she's let's watch Pan's Labyrinth. I hear it's really really good, and I heard about it, but I completely spaced and in realizing that it was done by Guillermo. So when I saw that Guillermo del Toro was directing, I was like, you know what, let's fire that up and
uh
see what we talk about. All right, and man, I was blown away,
huh.
absolutely blown away.
Yeah, I had this. You were like going, hell yeah, Hellboy. We got
Yeah,
Pan's Labyrinth.
absolutely.
I think when I actually watched it in the theater, and I had no
Mhm.
idea the whole thing was going to be in Spanish. It was going to be
Right,
subtitled. I was like, and it talks about this period in World War II, right,
right.
where we have partisans that are fighting, and it wasn't what I expected. Because I think everybody was like thinking, oh, hell, it's going to be like a Hellboy, or it's going to, and I thought it was just brilliant, like in terms of it being different. But I know that it didn't quite vibe with everybody because there were people. Heck, there were people that I went to the theater with that just didn't like it because they didn't want to like
Yeah,
read all these subtitles. But
right.
if you break it down, it's like one of those dark fairy tales um,
Absolutely.
that that you don't normally see, and that's what I appreciated about it. Just to give you a heads up, we got 4 more minutes, but I let you know during our pre-show that it's up to the guest if we want to add more time. So let's see where we get to at the end of the time limit, and you just let me know if you want to spend a little bit more time on it. Um, but getting back to the subject about Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth, I'm trying to think of what um, do you have a favorite Hellboy story? Like I know that the cool thing about Hellboy, aside from the movies, we talked about this during the pre-show as well, is that Mike Mignola, I don't think he thought that it was going to be as successful as it is. I mean, we got 2 A-list actors that have done movies for it. It's a part of the
Right.
pulp culture lexicon. People know who Hellboy is. Um,
Yeah.
and I think he wrote his stories to be kind of like short stories because he didn't know if they were going to
Yeah.
go anywhere. They weren't these complex, like George Lucas space operas where there was going to be like multiple movies. He just sort of said, "Hey, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then no harm lost." But he does
Right.
anthology style stories where he does short stories. Do you have a particular one that you like, or that you can
Not off the
that you
top of my head. I mean, I enjoyed. I'm more of a visual guy.
Mhm.
So if the visuals are captivating to me, like it's one 70% of the battle right there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I like I enjoy I enjoy seeing the creative ways in which, you know, creators will sort of get their main characters out of particular gems. You know what I'm saying? In
Mm-hmm.
like creative ways. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
like seeing how he would be able to, like, you know, defeat like a mythological beast using his stone hand and a gun, you know, like that's always like fun for me, you know.
Right.
It depends on my mood. It depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm in like, sometimes I just want I want a John Woo kind of like story,
Uh-huh.
you
With
know,
doves.
and then yeah, you know what I mean.
That's a name I
But
haven't heard
then
around. John Woo. Yeah.
yeah, but then there's other times where, like, you know, I want something with a little more like I want a little more Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that just goes back to what we talked about, is that you you embrace everything. You know, it's the
Yeah,
variety, you know, and that hearing that. But yeah, I like that too. I think you know, there I don't have a particular Hellboy story that I like, but I haven't read a bad one. You know, I like
true.
how they the the writers that have worked on it, they tell like I like how they can take fiction and weave it into kind of like nonfiction, especially like the World War II setting, and you know the whole the Nazis trying to like deal with the occult, and you know try and like
Right.
find like it has that Indiana Jones vibe where they want
Yeah.
to use the supernatural to win the war, and I like
Mm-hmm.
how Hellboy is kind of like thrown in the middle of that. You know, he's the one who's going, you know, fighting these crazy Nazis that are like ape bodies with like heads that are like in like snow globes that are on top of the ape. You know, I think that's so. It's just like it's so it's just neat because you can get a little bit of a historical context. Of course, it's historical fiction, but you know, it's rooted in like you know some reality there too.
I particularly like when stories are able to do that. Right? They
Mm-hmm.
take an actual time period and, you know, throw something fictional into it and sort of like
Mm-hmm.
tie it together real neat. Like what Kafalson did with Grace Flynn. You know, he is that the timer?
It is, and let's. Okay, I can't. I only you have the power to do this, Kenny. You want to add like another like 5 minutes to this? Do you want to do that?
Yeah,
Or
let's do another five. Let's do
okay,
another
all right.
five.
You know what? Let's do seven because I want to hear your thoughts on this. I'm going to put seven on there, and you just
Okay.
continue telling your story, and then we'll see where we are in 7 minutes. So go ahead, finish your thought.
Okay. So I really like what Kafalson did because he took like real people that existed in history and events that happened in history, and, you know, sort of like wove them into the world that he created with Grace Flynn. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you know what Frank Miller did with 300. Right?
Oh
His
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
interpretation, you know, his interpretation of that battle, you know, I dug that a whole lot. You know, it's kind of like
Yes, yes.
a fun iteration of history.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a cool thing that comics can do is if you can get, and this is what I think it's being lost on the generation now. I think they're kind of like so used to this instant gratification being tied to digital devices that they aren't really appreciating like comic books like you and I did when we grew up. Is that you can kind of like use it as a gateway to history. You know, if you can write a
True.
story that you can weave historical fiction in it, it makes you want to like, hey, maybe I should read a little bit about World War II or read about
Absolutely.
the pirate, not the Pirates of the Caribbean, not the Johnny Depp movies, but you know, see about the whole East India Company, and you know about how privateering, like where
Yeah.
where pirates came from, you know, and just how that shaped our American history, and
Yeah.
I would just it's just one of those things is that I wish that um, that wouldn't be lost on the current generation. You know that encourage them to read comics that have that thought intrigue you and maybe make you think more about history if it has that root
Yeah.
in it as well. So I know we kind of hit a tangent there. I guess. Were you a fan
Yeah.
of Pirates of the Caribbean? Did you like
I
did you
did.
like
I mean,
uh-huh.
I'm not, I'll be the first one to admit that I'm not a huge supporter of Disney movies.
We can have
Right?
another show about that. We can talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that a little later on. So,
I'm not a huge supporter of Disney movies, but when it was one night that I'm sitting in my apartment and it was like there was nothing to watch. It was late night, it was on, and I figured, what the hell, let me watch it, and it was actually a pretty good time.
yeah, yeah.
A pretty good time. So I
I,
did enjoy
I
it.
won't even. Yeah, we're not going to go into the whole court case with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but
No, 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 no.
that was a movie unto itself in terms of like
Indeed,
to
absolutely.
that. But yeah, that definitely. I watched them. I enjoyed. I think the first two movies, and then it kind of like just went off the rails in terms of like what they were kind of doing with it, and it just went all over the place. And I just decided, well, that's not. I just wasn't feeling it at that point.
No.
But it was fun. I will tell you that I enjoyed Guillermo del Toro movies much better in terms
Oh,
of like
absolutely.
what he brought to the table. So maybe if you get
Absolutely.
if there was a Guillermo del Toro Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I'm there.
Oof.
That's
Sign me up. Yeah. Have you
uh,
have you ever watched The Strain?
no, that was the straight. That's kind of like a vampire Guillermo del
Yes.
Toro movie, right? No, heard
It's a
good things
TV
about
show
it.
on FX.
Uh-huh. So you want to talk
It's a
about
TV
like
show
why
on
you
FX about vampires.
like you obviously you loved it, right? I mean, it was really really
Oh,
really cool.
absolutely.
Left an impression on you too. So,
Yeah, simply because of what Guillermo did with like the lore of the vampire, right?
mhm,
Like he took the mysticism sort of out of the vampire, right? And it
uh-huh.
actually he explains it in a way where it's a virus, or like a,
Ah,
I guess,
uh-huh.
lack of a better phrase, it's kind of like a herpes, right?
Mhm.
That it's a
Vampire
it's
herd
a
herpes.
yeah,
So,
it's a vampire herpes
uh-huh.
where like once it infects you, it's a worm that
Mhm.
changes you like physically from the inside out. So like your reproductive organs like fall off, so that you're like this
Uh-huh.
so you're sexless,
Mhm.
basically, right?
Right.
And the only way you reproduce is by creating more vampire, by feeding or
Oh,
or, or
yeah.
spreading the worm.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I'm intrigued. Uh-huh.
it was a really really cool premise, hence
Uh-huh.
why it's called The Strain, because
Uh-huh.
it's like a virus, right? That
Mhm.
started off with this creature that was infecting its victims in like Transylvania.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it did have like its vulnerabilities that were part of like the vampire legend, but it had a scientific explanation behind it.
Kind of
Which is
like
what I love.
if Christopher Nolan did a vampire movie where he kind of try and base it in reality, had like some
Exactly.
real I guess uh, real scientific explanations for something that has always been kind of like a supernatural aspect to it, right?
Exactly. So
Oh
that's
man,
what I dug about The Strain a lot.
I'm gonna have to look that up. Oh,
It's good. It's on effects.
okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay, so just to let you know, we have 1 minute to go.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna try and make my lines a little bit more. My lines are kind of wonky, so I just
That's
need
all
to like
good.
try and darken them up so that they can be seen a little bit better. So just a heads up
Yeah.
to our audience: if you are drawing, I see that there was at least one, I think Brian Acosta said he's drawing along with us, so we're looking forward to seeing
Nice.
that. If there's anybody that wants to draw along with us, let me know in the comments field and then post it to the art show, and I'll be more than happy to share that with our viewing audience. Let check it out, and we can go from there. All right, so approaching 30 seconds. And
yeah, I'm just gonna be nice and free with a little bit of the ink I was able to put in there.
Yeah, and I just want to let, like I told you, Kenny, it's like you don't have to do anything so super finished. We just wanted to let our audience see the magic happen, and then I want to let the audience know that if Kenny wants to finish it, he's going to share it with us, and we can post it to the Comics Cast page, our sister page on the art show, and then you can see the more finished artwork if Kenny wants to take it to that next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna want to like keep on messing with it, but I'm gonna put my pencil down, and I'm going to avert my eyes until you tell me that you're ready to like show your piece.
You can look at it. I mean,
there it is.
It's not
Okay.
super finished, but I'm able to do a little bit with it.
Yeah, and you know what? This is what I witnessed this last on Friday when I saw the legendary live draw.
Yeah.
This is something that I see with Kenny's artwork. Is like I can see the foundation, I see what's there, and there's a story already being built in here. It's like, what is he?
Right.
I almost feel like he's like perched on like a rooftop. He's almost like doing a Batman, where he's like looking over there. It's like we could throw some gargoyles in the background, maybe some more Gotham looking things. Like what if what if Hellboy? My narrative is when I look at this, it's like what if Hellboy dropped into Gotham, and he's like kind of like doing this whole it'd be kind of neat if here's my story. I look at this and it's like Cthulhu comes to Gotham, and Hellboy shows up to help Batman, and this is what I see. I see him like stalking, and it's like Cthulhu has possessed somebody. So it's not like he's this big tentacle-headed god, demigod or whatever, and yet, but he's like kind of like this. You're talking about that whole strain with infection. So this is a story in the making. I can already tell from this. This is just going to be epic in terms of what you're doing.
You heard it here first. On Comics
yeah, we heard it here first. That was me on the fly coming up with a story that I see in there. This is what's important. I think when I look at Kenny's artwork, it's like it's so impressionable on me that I want to think what story is Kenny trying to tell. This artwork. So that was my take on it. I don't know if that's what you were planning, Kenny, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love it.
Okay, so I'm going to leave your cam on there for a moment. I'm going to go to our art show page and see if I can find Brian's work and see if anybody drew along with us. So feel free to keep on drawing while I look and see.
Okay.
While I look for see if anybody drew along with us, because like I said, it's all about seeing the magic happen. You're definitely seeing some really illustration magic here from Kenny, and I'm just super impressed. Oh yes, we got two people that drew along with us. Got Brian Acosta.
Nice.
And we also got a Mr. Victor Rufino, who is a dear friend of mine as well. I'm glad he stayed up. This is what I told you about yesterday. Comics Cast, Let It Out, has an international reach. Victor hails from the Philippines. He is staying up. I think it's like either close to 3 a.m. in the morning. He stayed up for you, Kenny. Wow. So that he can like watch the show and draw along with you. So let me get the art ready to share. And it's phenomenal. Love it. All right, so and I think this is gonna like take you back to like when as a teacher, seeing the varied styles of your students. We're going to be able to see lots of different styles and be able to let you give your feedback. So hold on. I'm going to minimize your camera.
Okay.
And let me share screen. Let me stop this. And I'm going to share the two people that drew along with us. Okay, so first we have Mr. Brian Acosta. So let me share this. Add that. There you go. All right, can you see what I see?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So Brian has drawn a lot of stuff with us in the past. I'm glad to have you back, Brian. And I love what Brian did with this because he brings. I look at this piece and it has. I like how it has an attitude about it. I look
Absolutely.
at this and I like the little details with the rosary there, and it's almost like
Absolutely.
he's like looking at somebody who's like saying, "Yeah, come at me, bro. I'm Hellboy. Just deal with it." And I like Brian. I like what you did with it because I also did a horned version of of Hellboy. I remember when I first saw the drawings of Hellboy, it was intriguing because I thought he had goggles. Like he had like goggles on his forehead, but those were
Me too.
horns that he shears off because if you watch the Hellboy movies or you've read the comics, you realize that he's a conflicted character. He was raised to be good, so he's trying to hide his demonic attributes, characteristics, to the point that he shaves off his horns, and because he wants to deny that conception that he's going to be evil, and he does it to the point where he physically changes himself. And I thought that was brilliant. But yeah, Brian, great job. What did you think? What do you think about this one? You want to like give a little bit of your thoughts on this?
I dig it a lot. I think he's, as I mentioned before, conveying a very clear message, right? So there's a lot of little context clues that obviously identify him as Hellboy, right? And it's got that "come at me, bro" attitude. I dig it.
Exactly. And I like it. It's like he kind of looked at like his horn is being broken off. So I don't know if he like slung the sword around and cut off his horn and then propped it up behind it. Like he's so quick that he can cut off his own horn and then prop it up behind his back. I'm not sure, but I do like how he did that. And then let's look at Victor Rufino. I love Victor's work. He did this really quickly. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. I dig that. Yeah, that's really fresh. I dig it. I like his use of light and shadow in that one.
Yes, that's what I was gonna like. To mention is that he adds simple things about, and I see this with your artwork too, is that putting that area of shadow, it adds instant like 3-dimensional depth to it, and
absolutely,
I like it. It has a nice energy about it. But very, very cool. So thank you, Victor. Thank you, Brian. And let me minimize that. All right, so I'm going to share my cam real quick, and then we're going to move to our next live drawing. So let me share. Oops. You think I'd be able to do this on the fly, but I kind of have to. I have to like, oh, there's so many buttons to click. All right, so here we go. So this is my quick and dirty version of Hellboy.
Ooh, that's really good.
Thank you. I was like, we were talking about your Green Arrow and how you utilize that worm's eye view. I'm a big fan of that, so I kind of wanted to do that too, and emphasize, just hyper exaggerate that perspective where you see his stone fist. But I put the horns on there for fun and a little flaming crown. He's about ready to I don't know, go fight whatever demon, and then he's going to rip off his horns too and say that he's on the side of Jesus. So very fun. Very thank you so much, and I had a great time with this. So let me get rid of this real quick. And I don't know if you want to switch to your face cam real quick. Let's talk about our next. Yeah. So that way we can talk about our next drawing. And you know what? I got so excited talking to you that our big master plan to get some audience participation, I didn't get a chance to announce it when we were drawing Hellboy. Yeah. So, but you know what? Let's go ahead and throw that out there right now. Whoever's in the audience, we're just gonna take I guess whoever wants to reply to this like in the next minute or so. We wanted to come back to I used to have a co-host. The last few shows I haven't been able to have a co-host, but we wanted to incorporate the co-host challenge type characteristics into this challenge, where we kind of encourage some audience participation. So that being said, if we can get somebody in the audience to let us know what we're going to be drawing. I had Kenny draw. Kenny after our pre-show, Kenny wrote on a sheet of paper a genre, any genre, science fiction or steampunk or sci-fi. I don't know, anything. And I did the same thing. And this is where the audience can kind of come in here. We're going to do a fusion audience challenge. So if you're in the audience, and that goes to, I think we got some people that just joined in here. We got, we got Marius. I know we got another Filipino representation here.
Nice.
Stayed up late to like watch you, Kenny. We got like Saman Kucher. And Brian, you're out there. Joe, you're out there. Anybody who's out there, we would like you to just recommend a character of your choice that you would like Kenny and I to kind of do an interpretation of. And the spin is that when you give us that character, we're going to fuse it with the genres that a genre that Kenny picked and a genre that I picked. So it's going to be super cool, I think. I hope we don't get like crazy characters that we don't know about, or maybe don't lend themselves well to like fusing with the two genres that we came up with. But you know what? If that happens, that happens. Oh, okay. Joe Tolliver chimed in. He's our first one. We're gonna give it a few more seconds so that way we're gonna show them up there. So we got Joe who says Black Adam. All right, so we're gonna wait another let's say another minute to get some additional characters in here. And how you doing, Sarah? I'm glad Sarah's on the show. She's another one of our artists from Egypt, hails from Egypt, and has been on our show, Kenny, to like draw along. So hopefully Sarah can join us for this next drawing challenge. Oh, she says, sorry, I can't draw today since I am fever. Oh, I hope you get better. I heard that you were under the weather. Sarah, I wish you well. I hope you feel better and that you can get over the corona flu. We miss you. We're just glad that you could chime in here. All right, so we have another 20 seconds for anybody to chime in. And if not, we're going to be doing a Black Adam. So we'll see what happens. And I just realized where our background is missing. Let's put that back in there. There we go. Like that weird ambient, like red rays of light in the background. All right, so I'm going in the chat. Okay, we got Jay Massey who says Predator. Oh my gosh, those are good choices. Okay, so we've done the minute. Okay, so Kenny, you are my guest tonight. Today, so I'm gonna let you pick between Black Adam and the Predator, and then after that, we're going to reveal the two genres that the genre that I wrote down and the genre you did, and so we're going to fuse all that together for our last drawing challenge. So, who would you rather do, Black Adam or the Predator?
Both of those are awesome.
I know.
You know what? I think I'm gonna do. I want to do Black Adam.
You want to do Black Adam? Okay.
I want to do Black Adam.
All right. Well, we have plenty to talk about Black Adam. I was going to say that. Yeah. And you know what? Predator, the Hulu is doing a period piece Predator where they're going to be in the past.
Yes.
And I was going to say, I didn't want to say anything, but both of those are relevant, and so I didn't want to bias you in any way. But you've decided Black Adam, unless you want to,
and it looks so good.
Yeah. Did you want to do Predator, or did you want to do Black Adam? You want to stick with Black Adam, or
let's stick with Black Adam. We can do Black Adam.
Okay, we'll stick with Black Adam. Okay, all right. So Black Adam it is. Okay, and Joe is actually chimed in here, and he said the Rock version. I'm going to say that it could be the Rock version. It could be the comic version, because we're going to add more to it. Sarah says she might be able to draw. She could draw later. Okay, yeah, definitely. But I'm going to say in terms of Black Adam, because we're gonna put a twist on it, because not only is it Black Adam, we're going to reveal the two genres. So what genre of were you thinking, Kenny? What did you write down?
So I wrote down medieval high fantasy.
Medieval high fantasy. Awesome. Okay. So okay,
armor,
that's what you picked. So that's
Yes,
it could be like kind of like medieval Spawn, except it's medieval Black Adam. But I'm gonna add something on top of that. Okay. And mine was Japanese mythology. So I was
medieval
this
Japanese.
could be. So it could be kind of like a feudal Japan samurai, high fantasy Black Adam. I don't know.
I like that.
That's just crazy.
I like
I have
that.
no idea how we're gonna do
I
that.
like that.
Okay, so the character for this drawing is going to be Black Adam, and the spin is it has to be high fantasy, a fantasy thing, but the fantasy is going to be in the style of Japanese mythology, that kind of thing. So think of samurai, think of ninja. I don't know. Think of I forgot, like gaijin. I'm trying to think about all the little things
Yeah.
that you can kind of like weave into it. So hopefully we'll get a lot of cool drawings in there. I'm gonna set the timer to let's give it a little bit more time. I'm gonna say 20 minutes, and we'll start the clock right now. So Kenny, if you want to solo out your art cam, or if you want to switch to your art cam, I'm gonna solo that out, and we will start the clock once you get that up there. And all right, so let me make that solo. All right, so no pressure, Kenny. Eyes are on you to see how you interpret this. The clock is now starting, and just so you know, our audience, we are doing Black Adam. It can be the comic version, it can be the rock version, but you got to do it in a high fantasy, feudal mythology Japan style. So, tall order, going to be super fun to do. All right. Okay, so we're drawing. We'll just ask the obvious question. This being Black Adam being the character that we're doing, are you excited for the rock version of the Black Adam?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I mean, even just based off of the previews that I saw, it'll be a really good film. I love when movies can give me deep cuts of comic mythos. So seeing Hawkman and Dr. Fate and the Atom. Is it Atom Smasher?
Atom Smasher.
And,
yes.
And, yeah, and like I think that'll be like that's worth to take a price for me anyway.
Yeah, I have to say,
a faithful
one of those
depiction,
things.
Hawkman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what intrigued me because I was thinking, I thought it was just those were surprises to me. I thought it was just going to be Black Adam. I didn't know they were going to introduce all these other DC characters, and DC has been kind of like a mixed bag in terms of their movies. I think that love them or hate them. I think like the controversial ones about Zack Snyder, and of course, Suicide Squad got a little bit of a redemption with the James Gunn version. But I think that I hope that I think they're saying that these are not really a shared universe. Maybe they're more of like a multiverse for DC, which with a possibility that they could overlap. But I have to say that this one looks good. I'm hoping that it lives up to its hype, and seeing those additional characters put in there, especially that Hawkman one, probably was the one that surprised me the most in terms of how they did it.
That Hawkman looked really, really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a legit like lineup, of actors in the film. Pierce Brosnan is Dr. Fate. Like that's huge.
And I'm wondering how they're going to play that up, because I'm like, with the success of Doctor Strange, how there's always an analog to every,
of course,
DC character to Marvel character, or Marvel character to DC character, and of course, there's going to be some obvious comparisons to Doctor Strange. How do you feel about that? I mean, I really like what Cumberbatch did with Doctor Strange. How do you think Pierce Brosnan? How do you think Pierce Brosnan is going to do?
I think Pierce will knock it out the park, dude. I mean, Pierce. Say what you will about him, but he's got some really good acting chops. I saw him in that movie with Jackie Chan, The Foreigner, and he did a really good job in that.
I haven't seen that. What was the premise behind that one?
So Jackie Chan and his daughter are they just moved to like Paris, I think. Yeah, it's Paris. Right? And in Paris, they've been experiencing terrorism from the IRA.
Right? I have heard of this. I think I watched this because it was such an
Yeah,
off the cuff thing from. It's kind of like a vengeance story.
Yes, it really quickly goes into like a vengeance, like almost like Jason Bourne kind of story, where like Jackie's daughter gets caught in a car bombing, and he's like pleading with the local police to do something about it, and they're like, you know, refusing to do anything, and Pierce Brosnan plays this politician, right, who's currently there, and he has rumored ties to the IRA. You know, so Jackie starts to like plead with him to like get something done about it, right? And when he refuses, he takes things into his own hand, and like it turns into this big reveal where Jackie was like this like badass in China, special forces, you know.
He's like Liam Neeson, except it's Jackie Chan in like Taken.
Exactly.
Like, I have a particular set of skills that I'm gonna use on you. I did enjoy that. But yeah, I think that I was always a Pierce Brosnan fan. I loved when he played James Bond. I thought I've always been a James Bond fan, and when he got passed over and Timothy Dalton took over, and I think Timothy Dalton's okay, but he was just a bit too serious. But when finally Pierce Brosnan got to do James Bond, he brought his A game. I mean, who doesn't love GoldenEye, and you know that GoldenEye game,
of course.
You know, and I think Pierce Brosnan brought that whole man of action James Bond. He wasn't just using his little Walther PPK. He was using machine guns. He was driving tanks. You know, he was bringing another element of James Bond that we didn't really know about. But I think he's going to do the same thing with Dr. Fate. I think that it's going to be really neat to see.
I know he's up there in age, but I think he'll do well.
Yeah. Well, I think the age is up there, but I think it adds that sense of wisdom and experience that, you know, when you add that to the role, it actually adds credibility to the Dr. Fate character. So I think it'll be really neat to see what he does with it. But yeah, The Rock.
We had talked about. We had talked about in the live stream on who would win between Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate. Who do you think would win?
You know, honestly, I can't say because I don't know enough about Dr. Fate. So I'm gonna plead the fifth because I don't have enough knowledge about that. I mean, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna be biased because I'm a Marvel fanboy. I used to have one of my childhood friends. He was a diehard DC guy. I was a diehard Marvel guy, and so I'm always by default always gonna like pick the Marvel character. But I like to think that I've matured since then. So I'm not gonna say that it's only gonna be, you know, Doctor Strange. So I'm gonna just, you know, not say anything right now. But I think you said Fate, right? I want to say that you.
I said Fate would win.
Yeah,
I said Fate would win, only because Fate is more detached from his humanity. Like, you know, he takes on a human host, so just by that like to that point, like he's not tethered to humanity, so he's going to be a lot colder in that fight.
Okay, so get me up to speed a little bit on Dr. Fate. So like you're saying, is he like his persona is kind of like passed on to different hosts? Like, is he like
so the entity known as Dr. Fate lives inside the helmet.
Okay.
Lives. So once you put on the helmet, right, the entity of Dr. Fate uses the person as a vessel.
I see. Gotcha.
Right? So it's a lot like how Khonshu uses Moon Knight as his avatar.
That makes so much more sense to me.
So because they're essentially the avatar of the helmet of fate, right? And Dr. Fate, the entity, right? They're in servitude, you
Mm-hmm.
know, so they have to like leave their family, you know, leave like all their like mortal ties behind them, so that they're in
Mm-hmm.
complete servitude. So the mantle of Dr. Fate gets passed around.
I gotcha. But I guess if you think about it, with Doctor Strange, oh well, there is always a sorcerer supreme, but it's not
Correct.
like the sorcerer supreme gets the knowledge of past sorcerers supremes, right? So that's the
Right.
advantage that Doctor Fate has, because it's like he has the benefit of all the, because it is just him. It's like he takes over the other people to become, they become Doctor Fate. So
Right.
I got. Mm. So based on what you told me, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say that Kenny is speaking the truth. I'm going to say that. Um, I think that would be it. Um, but I guess if we're going to talk, since we have some tangents here, you know, we talked about Black Adam, we talked about Doctor Fate, we mentioned Doctor Strange. Did you watch the Multiverse of Madness? Did you?
Oh, I
You
loved it.
you loved it. All right. So despite
Loved it.
him not being able to hold his own against Doctor Fate in your book, what did you think of of um, of him, like of the Multiverse of Madness? What did you? What were your thoughts?
I thought that the movie was excellent. I love, you know, when Sam Raimi can bring in like a horror element to his work. I love
Mm-hmm.
what he did with Scarlet Witch, and you know, seeing John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic was a treat. That was something that I was one of those people that was like lobbying for that.
Uh huh.
Um, you know, just seeing like for, just seeing any Marvel movie kind of cut loose like that
Mm-hmm.
was a treat. You know, because I think with the exception for maybe Winter Soldier, they've all been kind of pretty tame.
Pretty tame.
So
So like you're saying they
yeah,
didn't push the envelope in terms of like being faithful to the comics, or what do you mean
yeah,
by pretty tame? Mm-hmm.
like pretty tame, meaning that, you know, they had like the Disney, you know, element to it, where they didn't go as far as they could have gone, right?
Oh, okay, I see.
Like,
So
and that's what kind
mhm.
of worries me about, you know, the Netflix shows going to Disney Plus.
Ah, yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that too. I mean, I definitely have some apprehensions about some of the choices that Disney has kind of done with you know, having the taking full reins of, like, especially the Star Wars properties. You know, like what they did with it.
Oh yeah,
But you know, I think there's a little something for everybody. I
true.
did like with the Multiverse of Madness. I did like the horror aspect, having Raimi come in there and do his interpretation of it, especially all the throwbacks to like his past
Oh
horror
yeah,
movies. You know,
absolutely.
the Evil Dead references, and um, some of the
Uh huh.
Spider-Man references. I think as a true comic book nerd, I was like just really enjoying some of those homages and stuff like that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
He
I think it was
definitely
it
killed it.
was fun. Let's see.
He definitely killed it. I loved it.
Hmm. So are you a fan of his other movies? Like, did you watch Evil Dead and Army of Darkness?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah. That was those were the movies that when I still lived in New York, I used to hang out with a buddy of mine, Rick, who lived down the street from me in Rockaway, and
uh-huh.
we would watch like these like scary movies in his bedroom, right? And one of the first scary movies that we watched was Evil Dead, right? And let me tell you, I had to have been like, I don't know, it was like 10, 11 or something, and Evil Dead scared the crap out of me, right? And,
uh,
and it was this one particular scene, right, where the evil the demons are loose in the cabin, and they're possessing everybody. Like that one girl gets possessed in the very beginning, and she's like sitting on in one of the chairs, and they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do to like help her and whatnot. And like by that time, she like her skin is blue, her eyes are all white, and she's sitting there in the chair going ah right. That freaked me the hell out.
You were traumatized, right? From now on, you can't
Yeah,
go to
man.
cabins in the woods because you're gonna have Evil Dead, flashbacks.
Absolutely, like it spooked the hell out of me. But it was good. I watched them again as an adult, and I enjoyed them.
For me, my introduction to it, because I didn't watch the classic Evil Dead movies until much later. My first introduction to Sam Raimi horror was The Army of Darkness, and
Ooh, that was good too.
that had so much humor that was added to it. I mean, with iconic lines like "Give me some sugar, baby," or
Yeah.
it's like, or like, what was it? It's like, "Come on, baby, that's just what we call pillow talk." I mean, it was just really just Bruce Campbell. Just he owned that role, and he made it so. His facial expressions, and I cannot look at a chainsaw and not think of it as being an attachment that you put on your. If you ever had a severed
100%.
hand, you got to get a shot. You got to get a shotgun and a chainsaw.
100%.
I think that's. I think that it's become such an icon. You really think of Bruce Campbell in that role. But yeah, some really classic stuff. Heck, I just realized we went through so many tangents. We're drawing Black Adam, and here we are talking about Bruce Campbell and Army of Darkness. So let's work it back to like Black Adam. What was that?
But that's how these things always turn up. Like I do. I've gone to a lot of drinking draws and just kind of it's a lot like this. You're sitting down, you're drawing, you're just kind of chopping it up, talking about different things, and it's very easy for you to go from subject to subject.
Mm-hmm. Especially when we're both nerds, right? We can just like
Absolutely
totally nerd out about like comics and pop culture and stuff like that. So okay, so here's a question I'm going to pose to you. Black Adam, to me, my limited knowledge of Black Adam, he's always been a villain. I never thought of him as being like a tragic character who is an anti-hero. And I think from the previews, they're kind of like setting him up to be kind of like this anti-hero where he's kind of like Venom, where they can kind of like set up this sympathy for him. And like, he looks like he lost his son, and then he gained these powers, and then he gets kind of like locked away for millennia, and then he's come back, and he can be, we talked a little bit about Superman's story where he could be like humanity's savior or destruction, or like Hellboy too. Do you like that? I mean, it seems like every villain is not really a villain anymore. That we're trying to make him a hero. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Black Adam has always been a bit of an anti-hero, right? So he lost his wife and son.
Okay.
Right, and his people were like enslaved. So he's an extremist, right? Think of Magneto, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he was given the powers of Shazam, he used them to like get back at the people that killed his family and the oppressors of his people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And at the time, it was kind of frowned upon. So that's why he was locked away, and he was imprisoned. You know what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm.
he's always been that character. It's just because throughout like the golden age of comics, he was a bit of an extremist.
Mm-hmm.
He's been pegged as a villain. A lot like how Magneto, for the longest time was, a villain. Even though his motivations like were valid, if if you really think about it,
Uh-huh.
you know. So it's that vibe. You know what I mean? It's because of the fact that he's not very kumbaya about his approach. There's always going to be that pushback, but his motivations are valid.
Right. So he was
Essentially,
making
go
he
ahead.
was
I'm
kind of
sorry.
making anti-hero cool before before it became kind of popular with Venom, right? And him and Magneto were like they were the trailblazers
Exactly.
for for that
Exactly.
whole oh, learn something new here.
And if you think about it, the a lot of those characters becoming anti-hero, that happened much later on because of their popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Like Magneto became very popular, especially after the Jim Lee run on Uncanny X-Men, or his run on X-Men, right?
Uh-huh.
Venom becoming very, very popular.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the timer?
It is the timer. I got so caught up in it. I'm gonna like say, hey, since we're only doing two, and this is a little bit more complex, I'm gonna add let's add another 7 minutes to this, and
Okay.
that way we can do so. 7 more minutes. Keep on complete. Go ahead, complete your thought while you're while.
So it's based off of the popularity of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
The fans loving those characters, and and the way books as being badasses, that now they start to give them some redemption in some cases. Like you get the Joseph character from Uncanny X-Men,
Yeah.
which is Magneto with like amnesia. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's where we get the anti-hero trope from. I mean, no one did it better than Punisher.
Yeah,
Punisher,
you're so right. Uh-huh.
Punisher for me is the OG anti-hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
And 100% unapologetic. There's no. It's like he is so set in like his mindset. It's like he
mm-hmm.
doesn't. He's not conflicted. He doesn't have like this inner conflict. It's like, should I do it? Should I not? It's like, no. Uh,
Yeah,
it's black and white for him. Just
absolutely.
uh,
No one did it better than Punisher, and no one will,
mhm.
right? So
That is such
like
a good
that's the
good
thing with
example.
Black Adam.
Mhm. Yeah, because obviously it's like they're setting up. They got like A-list action hero, Dwayne the Rock Johnson to be Black Adam. So they want to build a franchise out of this. So I can't imagine a franchise being built off a villain or somebody that's just completely, a bad guy. So it's going to be neat what they do with it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be a good movie. I mean, the previews look incredible. I'm excited for another DC film. I'm still waiting for them to bring back, a legit sequel to Man of Steel.
Oh, I'm in your camp. I can't believe when you said that. I want Henry Cavill to reprise his role. Um,
Absolutely.
I think that everybody gave Man of Steel such a hard time, and I have to say that it was a different take on Superman, but I liked it. I like Zack Snyder gets a lot of hate, and
Yeah.
I think that his strengths are better behind the camera instead of writing. I think, but I have to say that stylistically, just exploring a different avenue or different edge. I mean, a different side of Superman's persona that you hadn't seen on the
Right.
screen. I thought that was really really good.
Well, and anyone who knows me personally knows that I'm a huge, huge, huge Superman fan. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
something that's been like consistent since I was a kid, right?
Uh-huh.
Like uh, like I got a lot of Superman paraphernalia,
Uh-huh.
especially from the original Richard Donner film. Like
Uh-huh.
I got a lot of stuff, dude. So
Mm-hmm.
when people ask me about Henry Cavill as Superman, I say that I absolutely love it because it's a different take on Superman. It's a more realistic take on Superman. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if from one day to the next you had some guy flying around saving people from disaster and all that, you're going to question him, especially in this day and age. No one
Yeah.
no one is gonna be all like, oh yeah, he's one of the good guys off of face value. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right. Right.
So 100% the government is gonna step in. 100% they're gonna mobilize the military, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they don't trust him.
And he's an
You know,
alien. You know.
and
So
he's an
like.
alien on top of that.
So.
You know what I mean?
Uh,
So 100% all of that was plausible to me.
uh-huh.
What resonated with me in particular was with his father, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that I love about Superman and the mythos behind Superman and the way he's been portrayed in film
Uh-huh.
is that it's very much a father son kind of story, right?
Uh-huh.
I watched the original Richard Donner film with my father.
Oh.
That was my very first superhero movie,
So
right? And I'll
you
forget
got some
this. It was a
feels,
Friday night.
nostalgia feels. Yeah. The whole.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I will always associate Superman with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and then in Superman 2, seeing the whole dynamic where like Jor-El is trying to convince him not to give up his power for Lois, and you know what I mean, like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
all of that resonates with me. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of takes my own relationship with my father. So you know, I think that the Superman film Steel was a smart movie. And it kind of it gave it more credibility when I found out that when Zack Snyder was planning his Snyderverse, he was doing it alongside Jim Lee. Like
Yep.
him and Jim Lee were there, like together, storyboarding, mapping out the timeline for the movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like I legit I feel they should bring back the Snyderverse.
I'm with
I know
you.
that's a
I yeah, just to see what the full vision would have been. Like you just mentioned the Jim Lee. I have tremendous respect for him. Um,
yes.
and I think with Jim Lee too. I think uh, you know, definitely stronger as an artist than as an author. But
Yeah.
I think we can kind of look at the New 52 and how that kind of went. But
Yeah.
I have to say that if they got together and if they were already plotting them out, I think some of the things that I heard about were just kind of brilliant. And it was kind of sad that we don't get to see that. Well, I guess there's a petition going around to see if bring back the Snyderverse,
Oh yeah.
if that's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
So, uh, but
Twitter's
yeah,
been going heavy about bringing back the
yeah,
Snyderverse, especially
I
with the
think that would.
success of the Snyder Justice League.
Yes, and it's oh shoot! See, we got so caught up in talking. The 7 minutes disappeared. And as much as I would
It's all
probably
good.
like to keep on talking, I want to make sure that we get to some of the other parts of the show. And this
Sure.
was a fun challenge. And I'm gonna look at your screen and look at that. Oh my gosh! I always am so happy when I can finally look and see what my guests have done, and this is brilliant. I like how you did this, and I like how you kind of like gave Black Adam a more youthful look,
Yeah.
too. It's almost like you could if this was a feudal Japan high fantasy Black Adam, like if Black Adam came to
Yeah.
medieval Japan, um, it's one thing to have him come back to that time period, but to actually have him younger, it's like he's this young
Yeah.
Ronin in a difficult time in Japanese history. Very
Yeah.
cool.
They
Can
could wield lightning.
Yeah, that could wield lightning, and you know what? I was a big fan. We were talking about big fan of toys too. And Todd McFarlane had these great
Yes.
toys back in the I want to say it was in the early 2000s. He did a whole like line of like Japanese mythology style Spawn characters, And
Oh man.
I look at this and I'm like saying, hey, if Todd were to do a, like what if Black Adam was in feudal Japan? This would be it. This is so cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna look in our comments field. I'm not sure. Does it look like anybody commented that they were drawing along? I'm gonna go to our Facebook page. If you want to keep on working on that, I'm gonna look and see if anybody in the art show drew along. So let me do that. And again, Kenny, if you want to like mess around with this more and send us something,
Sure.
a little, once you refine it, we can definitely incorporate that or share that with our audience and basically replug this show. Oh, look!
So I see that Sarah's
both,
asking about my brush.
About your what?
She's asking about my brush.
Oh yeah, you want to go ahead and answer that? Yeah.
Yeah. So Sarah, I'm using a Tombow brush pen. Right. These are with the cartridge that you can Amazon, right? And it's squeezable. This is one. And then I'm using a Pentel pocket brush, right? I'm using this one now simply because I feel like this one's starting to dry out, so I need to change out the cartridge. But I know that this one is still pretty full. And then for my line art, I'm using a Furunosuke hard tip calligraphy pen. Right, so these run really well to weight. So if you push down on them, it's going to give you a little bit of a heavier line weight. But if you're really light, you're also going to get a thinner line weight, especially when you hatch. So these respond well to pressure.
All right, we're getting a little bit of tools of the trade of a master inker here. So, and it's just kind of fitting that those are Japanese ink brush style pens. So keeping up with that Japanese mythology theme, we're keeping it all Japanese.
However, when I do comic pages, I ink with a brush, right? Like an actual dipping brush. So I use black ink, right? This is Sumi ink and it's waterproof. All right. So after this goes down, you give it 15 seconds and it's completely dry. You can go over it with watercolor and it'll set. All right.
Maintain.
And I use I use old watercolor brush, right? For some small areas. And I do use a Tala G-nib tip, right? With the Sumi ink. These, I love these.
Oh shoot, we're gonna have another show on with you where we can talk about. I'm gonna have to maybe get some other guests who are inkers, and we're gonna have to just.
Oh man, that would be great.
Together, and we have to do an inking show, and maybe we get some artwork that we find, and all the inkers can get together. I think we talked a little bit. I talked to Joe and another one of our former contributors to Comics Cast, Vic Medina. We were talking about doing an inker show, and seeing awesome. All these tools. We maybe have to do that, and that way we can kind of have an artwork that all the inkers that we have on the show could probably talk about their techniques and ink the same thing, because I think
absolutely
inking is I think what was it? Was it Chasing Amy? That movie where they were talking about
the tracer.
Saying, that's like you're just a tracer. No, it's like you just insulted all inkers who really put their heart and soul in it. It's an art unto itself. Being
absolutely.
able to ink really well, just like coloring. Coloring is an art to itself, like lettering. Lettering is an art unto itself. But yeah, so Sarah says, she says, thank you for the info, Kenny. So thank you. I'm glad that you're able to share the tools of the trade. All right, so let me share with you, Kenny. I'm going to share with the audience. Brian Acosta and Victor Ruffino have come back to draw along with us. So let me stop sharing this, and I'm going to minimize the screen, and I'm going to share what they did. Here we go. All right, so to show this is Brian here. Brian,
nice.
Check that. Brian, this is so awesome. And I like this. This guy, I get kind of like this Knights Templar kind of vibe to it, Samurai
Yeah,
Templar kind of vibe
yeah,
to it. It has
I
a
dig it.
samurai, but yet kind of like I said, like it has that kind of vibe to it, and very very cool. Um, and I think yeah, DC take note. So if we're gonna do a Black Adam goes to Japan, maybe we need to consult Brian here with this. And Victor also drew along with us. So here, this is Victor, and he went
Oh, that's
like
cool.
I don't know what it's like went Raiden on it, and I have to say
Yeah,
that that would have been like a I don't know why I didn't even think about that the Raiden look because the lightning,
true,
and
true.
it's like I totally blew my I mean I didn't think about it and it seems so obvious and I like it a lot. I think this
I
is a
dig that.
really really neat fusion of Black Adam in Japan and making him kind of Raiden-esque. So very very
Yeah,
cool.
I like the perspective that he used.
Yes, and that's the thing about Black Adam is that I think when they're Black Adam kind of like in the previews, he kind of has this Zod vibe to him. So, of course, General Zod is all evil, but it's like I remember
Right.
that iconic line, from those Donner movies with Zod. He goes, "You must kneel before Zod." It's like he has this. He's
Yes,
always being depicted above man. Like he's always like
of
I'm better
course.
than everybody. So I like this. There's an attitude. This is that storytelling that Kenny was talking about. When you have an illustration
Yes,
that can tell a story and evoke these emotions. So very very cool. So let me
absolutely.
so thank you Brian. Thank you Victor for contributing. Let me turn this off. All right, so we've seen some just in that short amount of time. We're seeing Kenny putting some more touches on his version of Black Adam. Um, Let me share mine real quick, and we're gonna move to the next phase of the show. So let me stop sharing and share one more. I go to my Arcam, and here we go. So Kenny, you can let me know what you think about this one. All right, more
Ooh,
worm's eye perspective. But instead of giving him the Raiden hat, I gave him a samurai hat with a lightning bolt. So I think I went a little cliche in terms
I
of where
dig
that
that.
lightning bolt would go. But yeah, he kind of looks like the Silver Samurai Black Adam. So I don't know.
I
It's like
dig it
I
though.
didn't get too creative with the fusion, but it
No,
was
no, no.
fun.
It's
Uh,
really good. It's really good. I mean,
uh,
look, the use of the perspective for one,
uh,
that's excellent. Your anatomy is really tight, so that's good. I like
uh,
the
you give
energy.
me way
I
too
like
much
the
credit.
energy that's in that left hand. The
Uh-huh.
the energy that's in that left hand, I'm digging also. You know,
Appreciate
so
it.
I think you knocked it out of the park, dude.
Like I said, you give me too much praise. I'm just happy to draw along, and it's one of those things that you are a veteran of. Like I'm gonna reiterate what we talked about earlier. Since 2008, we've been Kenny's been going to cons, doing commissions, and being able to draw on the fly. And we got to see this too. Let me solo out your camera one more time before we switch to face cam, because I want people to really just appreciate this. I just dig that you did a younger version of Black Adam too.
Yeah.
That's and you didn't make him like super muscle bound. Like I think it's like this could be like a young version, and later on he starts, like he could be like Dragon Ball Z or Pokemon. He like evolves. He gets like this
Yeah.
next level where he starts like bulking up. But it's like this is the beginning
Yeah.
of medieval Japan. Black Adam high fantasy. So very, very cool. Awesome. Awesome. I hope our audience got to enjoy that. If you want to switch back to your face cam, um,
Yes,
we can
sir.
get
Let
you
me
back there
drop the
real
lights
quick.
over.
Okay. And I just want to while we're waiting for your face cam to get back up there, we got a few comments. We got Karen saying, "Good to see you in action. I don't often see the other side of what I do." So that was Karen Cowan, and
Awesome.
Sarah.
Oh, that's Karen. That's awesome.
Yeah, you know
Karen,
Karen? Huh?
yeah, I do know Karen.
Mhm.
Karen actually supplies me with my sketch cards.
Oh, so you're getting some love from Marvel Tops? coming back here, like
So
on the show.
so
Uh-huh.
so the thing is that Karen supplied me with my
Oh,
own
these aren't okay. This isn't Marvel
original.
Tops. These are
No,
your
no, no.
custom.
These are
These are your
mine.
custom
Yeah.
WILDINX cards, sketch cards.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So
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 yeah.
Karen is awesome. She's quality is unsurpassed, ladies and gentlemen, and she's very timely. Oh, the communication is awesome. So shout out to Karen. She's also we're also going to be doing some sketch cards licensed under Legendary Illustrations. So
Uh-huh.
look out for those also.
Oh, okay. So if you need to get good sketch cards, or heck, if you want to join WILDINX, you can talk to Kenny, and he can hook you up with these excellent sketch cards from Karen.
Always.
So Karen, thank you for chiming in. It's always good to hear a little bit of from all the people from your walks of life that are coming in here to sing your praises and talk about who've had the wonderful opportunity to interact with Kenny. So
Yeah.
okay, so we finished the live drawings, and we're going to go into talking a little bit about the future. But before we do that, there was one more IP that you worked on, which both of us have a shared connection to, and I want to talk about that before we talk about the future and eventually the Oscar speech. So let me pull up one more thing. I'm going to share a screen. It's going to go back to that PDF that I shared earlier. So let me share that. Add this back to the stream. Okay, so this is the other IP that Kenny worked on, and this is how I met Kenny. Because I met Kenny in name only, because I only saw his artwork, and now I'm so happy that I have a name to go with a face, and I'm happy to call him my friend now. But this is how I met Kenny. I heard of the great Kenny. I could actually say it's like that guy that author from was it from AWP, who said that he was recommended by so many people. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
you should get Kenny to work on your piece. And so I felt the same way. It's like I heard of Kenny, I saw Kenny's artwork, and it wasn't until I got to meet him face to face to see him on Philip's legendary live drawings that I got to put a name or face with a name. And now I get to see this artwork, and I guess I became familiar with Kenny when there was a call to arms, call to action to do artwork for Philip Russert, who I also learned there's a history that Kenny has with him that goes back many years beyond the 2 years ago when this contest started. So I'm going to put the mic back in your hands, and I want you to talk a little bit about Tragedy the comic, not tragedy in life. I want you to talk a little bit about your relationship with Philip, your relationship with Philip and Legendary Illustrations, and your relationship with Philip and Tragedy. So tell us about that.
So I think it was 2018. 2018, I did a show in New York called 5 Points. And 5 Points was it was primarily like a toy and collectible show, right? But I flew up there with Creature Entertainment, one of the publishers that I work intimately with, and I met Phil. Phil was an attendee at the con. He walked up to the table. He looked at the work. He dug what I was doing, and he asked if I would be willing to work on a jam piece that he was putting together. So I said, yeah, absolutely. I worked on the jam piece. He dug what I did, so he came back with a second one, right? And it was characters on an Excalibur jam piece and Alpha Flight jam piece that he has hanging in the background whenever we do the legendaries and whenever he does the live broadcast in the background. Right?
You have many people that have got your art that have them hanging on the walls of their homes. He's just one.
And I highly appreciate that. Like the depths of my appreciation is boundless, really. So what happens is I met him that weekend. We became friends on Facebook, and then time kind of passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, a couple years after that, I believe he started his own convention uh,
Yes.
in Long Island, and I was slated to make an appearance one year, but I had to back out. Then, as I'm going through social media, I'm seeing that he's actually representing artists, under Legendary Illustrations,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as an artist, as a creator, right, someone who works for themselves, it's very important that in order to survive in today's economy, you develop multiple revenue streams. So I do my commission stuff. I work conventions. I teach, and I also have like I got hands in everything. I work with clothing designers and musicians. I've done like album art and things that have sold in shopping malls and so on and so forth. So it's important that you develop multiple revenue streams, right? So when I saw that Phil was representing all these different artists, and one in particular that I've personally worked with, Peter Palmiotti, right, Marvel DC inker, right. I started asking questions. I started popping up into his live shows and seeing what he was doing for the guys that he was representing. And I had already been kicking around the idea of getting some representation. So I reached out to Phil. I already had a rapport with him. I'm actually jumping. I'm actually jumping the gun because I started being represented by Phil after the tragedy thing. Right. I
Uh-huh.
saw that he posted a call to action for artists. Right. He was doing all these variant covers for an IP that he was putting together a Kickstarter for, which was tragedy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, man, I can do something for this. Right. So this was the first. This was the piece that I did for that contest, right? It was for book
Yes.
one. This was the
Uh-huh.
piece, right? So what I did was, because I already had a rapport with Phil, right? I reached out to him via DM, and I'm like asking for a little more information, right?
Mm-hmm.
He gave me some information regarding the IP without spoiling it, and I came up with this piece. So, because I'm a big fan of being able to tell a story in a still, right? And seeing motion in a still, right? This piece, I composed it in this way, right?
Yeah.
The two guys at the sides, those are the bosses of the respective mob families, right? Tragedy being in the center, right? Being the main character, and then Breath of the Dragon above that, being very ominous, because let's read Tragedy, Breath of the Dragon kind of comes off as a villain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least the opposing force to Tragedy,
Yeah.
right? Now
The anti-hero.
the anti-hero, right? So then the big gold circle behind Breath of the Dragon's head is a symbol representing the triads,
Ah.
right?
Uh-huh.
So I stylized it a little bit so as to not
Yes.
offend or cause any issues, but
Uh-huh.
it is a representation of the
You
triad gang that's in Tragedy.
and this is what we're just gonna keep on harping on this. This is the story the storytelling element that Kenny wants to bring to all of his pieces, and he did the extra. I'm going to say he did the extra. He when the call to action to come up with a potential artwork cover artwork for Tragedy issue number one, there wasn't much out there. Because it was a new IP and it was for issue one. But Kenny took it that next step because he wanted his illustration to tell more, and so he reached
Mm-hmm.
out to Phil, and he sort of said, "Hey, can you what more information can you give me without spoiling anything?" And from that limited extra knowledge that or story background that Phil gave him, this is what we got. This is what Kenny came up with. And I look at this piece. I remember seeing this, and no doubt in my mind, it should be a cover. It should have and it went. It won.
It became one, yeah,
Of course, it
for
was
issue two.
yeah, right. But it was but it was such a it's told such a story that Philip said, you know what, I want to push it to issue number 2 because we haven't established these characters. You're telling a story that this cover would fit better with issue 2. And so I was like, yeah, that's Kenny for you. It's like a bigger picture that I'm getting now that I know your methodology, you know, the way that you come across when you're coming up with your process. You know, you talked about the composition, you know, flanking tragedy on the left and right. They're the warring mob factions. You have Breath of the Dragon at the top. I'm looking at this and it has such a movie poster quality to it. It's like you could just put the tragedy logo and then put the little credits at the bottom and who the studios and the Motion Picture Association, and of course it's going to be rated R just because it is tragedy.
Oh, absolutely.
But but I'm just saying, this is. I thought it was really great to show this because this is the thought process. We got to talk about this throughout the show, and this particular cover, I want to say it epitomizes your approach to art. And the other pieces that we have here, you did a solo action shot here. Well, it's actually the action has already happened. The narrative is like it's game over. Breath of the Dragon's already like dealt his death blow already to all these poor souls here. But again, it's telling a story here, and I like this piece because you gave me the tighter pencils. We got to see the inks, and then here we have a colored piece here. Did you color this one too, or did somebody else color this?
I did.
Dang!
I do all my
I'm going to say this is just—it's been a treat to actually see this, to see your process and how you've been able to take something maybe that's even a little bit more limited in the information that you're given when you compose things, but to come up, it's like you're taking just a little bit of a hint of something and come up with something like this. Of course, this was done. I think is this like interior, like a pinup art, or is this going to be used for another
this
cover?
Is well, actually, I intended on this being a cover piece. And it was going to be used for, I believe, issue 3.
Issue 3, okay.
But I did the follow-up piece where Tragedy and Breath of the Dragon falling out of the window, and
it's
Phil
this one right here, right?
Yeah, Phil absolutely lost his mind with that one, and he was like, "Nah, the other one's good. This one's better," So I said, "No problem." He was like, he wants to use that. I was like, "No way."
I'm impressed with both, but I have to say that Philip, if I had to pick between the two of them, this piece, hands down, there's just so much energy in this piece, and the strong diagonal, you can actually feel the movement. It's a static image, but it feels like there's so much in it already.
Yes.
You feel it. I could see this animated. I could see this being a movie and actually seeing this still being recreated. But just tremendous talent. Love it. All right, so we got to talk about tragedy now. This is all about Kenny, but I'm going to give a slight plug to Philip. Here, go Absolutely. To Indiegogo, and it's not because it's all in the same. You guys are all in the same club. You're in the studio with Legendary Illustrations. So let me pop up in the comment field. I'm going to drop in. Let me see if I have it copied to the clipboard, and I do. So let me go to if you go to the comment field, and I'm going to show this right here. And it's kind of a long URL, but if you just go to Indiegogo and type in Tragedy Chapter 3, you'll be able to see it. But it is in the comment field, so you can click on it directly from there. Not now. Go later, after the show is done. That's how you can support Philip. You can support Legendary Illustrations. You can support Kenny, because he's a part of that bigger studio. Aside from WILDINX, he's also there with Legendary Illustrations. So go check it out, where you can see this artwork. Get this artwork right here that we have. That just is some incredible stuff. All right, so we've done that. Man, like I said, we're pushing already close to 3 hours, and I apologize to our audience. I just get so excited, and I want to keep on talking and sharing this stuff. But it is what it is, because Kenny is that good. So I'm gonna. Yeah, so let me get that off the screen so now we can see our big pictures here. All right, so we're gonna wind down the show. I'm gonna hand the mic back to you, Kenny. The last two parts we're gonna talk about. The first one is the future. What is in store for Kenny Calderon? What is in store for WILDINX? Just let us know if you could give us a little bit of a rundown what's going to be happening in the rest of this year, all the way up to like what you see yourself in the next 10 years. I don't know if you can forecast that far ahead, but let's hear what is the future for Kenny. Let us know. Give us the lowdown.
So I'm gonna finish out the rest of the year doing some shows that I haven't done before. Some shows, out of the state of Florida. So I'll be at Baltimore and possibly New York Comic Con. Fingers crossed, right? Mm-hmm. But regarding my career path, I want to put out one of my IPs soon. That's kind of in the works. Got a few IPs that I want to put out.
Yay!
One of which is one I'm gonna be like talking to Phil about, right? It's I can give you a title. I can't give you much else after that. It's called Hotaru Saga.
Okay, I didn't even know I was gonna get that. I feel like I got an exclusive. So we got a little bit of a preview, and it sounds Asian Japanese. Yeah. Maybe you're gonna pull on your skills and fascination with anime manga, maybe, and this is gonna be something. I don't know,
because it has a base in Japan. Like it's got a basis in Japan. So Hotaru is Japanese for firefly.
Okay.
So it's sci-fi, but it's like noir sci-fi, but with a lot of street level action mixed into it. So Hotaru Saga is the name of the IP. And ideally I want to keep putting out more IPs, helping other creators get their IPs out, if they dig my art and if they feel that I would be a good fit with their stuff. And regarding WILDINX, I want to continue to help other artists achieve heights they probably wouldn't have been able to do on their own. I've done a lot of the footwork. So when I was coming up, I didn't have like that mentorship. So a lot of the people that I know today are, people that I've gone up to and shook hands with, that I've like taken to network with, so anyone who comes under WILDINX, they're immediately exposed to my network, and my only mission is to help you grow as a creative, help you grow as an artist. You're not tethered to me. You know what I'm saying? So you still have the freedom to do what you do. I get the satisfaction of knowing that I helped you, sort of like get to that next level. That's it. So with Legendary, I foresee big things with Legendary. In the couple months that Phil's been representing me, he's already shown me a return in spades. So the relationship that I have with Legendary, I see that long term. So ideally, to sum it all up, a couple of IPs, that are my brain children, out there in the world for everyone to enjoy, and just continuing to do good art, that people love, and expanding the audience.
Yeah, that is great. I mean, the future is bright to hear what you're planning to do. I'm going to add on top of that what I see in your future is because with WILDINX, you've already positioned yourself to do a lot of your art in general, but you talked about working with musicians and fashion, and I'm like saying, if these IPs of yours, once they're ready to go, I'm ready to get my Firefly. I forgot what the Japanese word that you talked about, but I'm just gonna say my Firefly. Yeah, Hitaru. Yeah, I'm gonna get my T-shirts and the fashion thing, and then there's gonna be a soundtrack that's gonna go along with it, because that's one message that I want to like reiterate here with Kenny is he's been dropping all sorts of great process advice, positivity, outlook. This is what I've been getting from Kenny. But Kenny is talking about that variety in not only his artwork, but in the networking aspect. And he has his hands in many pots here. And, when he gets to that point where he's comfortable to get his IP out there, he's going to have all of his ducks in a row to do a media onslaught. I can see like a marketing campaign and an animation and a soundtrack and and it's going to be a media blitz. We're going to see it on Netflix. We're going to be able to buy those shirts at Target. I have no idea. It's going to be, the world is your oyster. It's going to be just really, really cool to see that. So,
well, God willing.
So that's God willing. It's so true. Amen to that. So, we've talked about the future, and we're approaching 3 hours, and I'm gonna have to like wind down the show. This is where I'm gonna get kind of sad, because we have to all good things have to come to an end. But I'm not gonna say goodbye, because that means that sounds so final. I'm gonna have to have you on another show. We can do part 2 of this discussion. But as we move to this part of the show, which is called the Oscar speech, you don't have to worry. I think Will Smith has been given Oscar speech as a bad name, so I don't think either one of us is gonna reach across the screen and like slap each other. We are all about the positivity here on Comics Cast with Kenny. So Kenny, I'm going to turn the mic back over to you. You talked about the future, so let's just give us your final thoughts and any thank yous. This is pretty much just open mic for you to just give us like I said, your final thoughts. So here we go, and take it away.
So first and foremost, I want to extend a thank you and a fond appreciation for having me on the show. Right? Anyone who's who sees enough in me to expose them to their audience, like, I greatly appreciate that, sincerely. Anyone who's supported me, before I started doing shows, and even up until this point, anyone who supports WILDINX and anything that WILDINX is attached to, I highly appreciate that. I'm able to provide for my child, doing this, full time. My mom, my sister, who are among my biggest supporters, my fiance Melissa, I love you. My son, who thinks I'm famous, right? Just because
you are.
Can be Googled.
You are.
He's low key my biggest motivation. Okay, because I started this, wanting people to respect me and my body of work, right? But after becoming a father, it's become about the legacy that I leave behind for him. I want people to respect the Calderon name, and just I want to leave behind a good reputation. You know what I mean? It's one that he could be proud of. So, aside from that, Phil, awesome. Thank you for repping me, right? All the guys that I've worked with, Creature Entertainment, Cathalson, Keith, and anyone who's considering, using me on their IPs, I thank you in advance.
All right. I want to make sure that was, I'm getting all misty-eyed here, so I just wanted to make sure that was the end of it. So. But yes, I'm gonna have to say, in the pantheon of Oscar speeches that we've had here on Comics Cast, that's gonna be up there with the top 5 there.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm gonna say, it is a pleasure, like with all of my guests, to feature your talent, your time, and to tell your story on Comics Cast. It's a special thing because I think it's a basis for inspiration for any artist or creator that's on here to see that you're not alone. There's plenty of creators out there that are going through the same thing. And when they can share their nuggets of knowledge, their bits of wisdom to help you get to where you can be creative or creatively, that's what it's all about. And in this time of virtual everything, it's also been a good thing because I don't think I would have met you without these things and be able to share your story with everybody. Mm-hmm. And there's been so many people in the audience that feel the same way. We got to see quite a few people that had taught have walked with you, that are your your contemporaries, that are your friends, and I'm glad they were able to share. Come along and prop you up. And it was nice to hear from also audience that drew along with us, because
yes,
just
absolutely.
like them, I was also inspired when I saw you draw along on Legendary, and I wanted to draw. I had to have you guess, and it was just coincidental that you're doing a double dose of promotion here for Kenny Calderon. Yeah. You are definitely leaving a meaningful, you're definitely leaving a legacy to your son. And I think that you as a creator, but also a mentor, we talked about you being a teacher, you are impacting the next generation of artists as well. So thank you so much. So like we do with all of our shows, I like to end it with this. So let me pull up one more page. So here we go. So this is Golden Fight. Let me pull up the URL. It's very simple. It's just www.goldenfight.org. Now, they're our charity partner. We are not financially tied to them in any way. We just to them. They're an organization that I like to call is big enough and small enough at the same time. Small enough, they are not like super big. They're not nationwide. In fact, they're like in my neck of the woods, the Mid-Atlantic region. And what exactly is Golden Fight? This is where they're big. This is where they are huge. They are a charitable organization that helps families who have kids that are dealing with difficult illnesses like cancer. And when parents are focusing on the healing of their child, when they're battling to kick the ass of cancer, they're going to need that financial. That's where Golden Fight comes in. This is where they are huge. I was thinking that 98% of whatever money they raised would go to those families, and that little tiny minuscule, like 1 or 2%, would go towards like taking care of administrative things. No, they give 100 money they raise to those families. So they are awesome. They are huge in that capacity. So it's our pleasure to bring awareness to them. Like I said, we're not financially tied to them at all. The leadership of Comics Cast, Joe Tolliver, is friends with the leadership at Golden Fight. So this is our little bit to give back, to bring awareness to a great charity. So if you have time, if you've been considering looking at a charity to help out, perhaps Golden Fight is that. So goldenfight.org, check them out. They are definitely worthy. So let me get that back out. Get us here, the two of us here one more time. I want to pop up one more thing here because I'm going to beat a dead horse. I want to like make sure that if anything, you can go to visit Kenny Calderon's social media handles now because we're done with this show. But it's, like I said earlier, it is not a goodbye. It is see you until next time. That's what it's going to be. I look forward to having Kenny back on here again. Hopefully we'll have some new news on his own IP, but he's going to continue to with his success with just doing his normal fan art stuff, but he's also involved with tremendous IPs that we were able to share as well. So that being said, I want to try and get this thing all queued up here. I just want to say thank you for spending your Sunday with us and allowing me to showcase yet another tremendous talent in Kenny Calderon here on Comics Cast Let It Out. So stay tuned. We're going to try and get back on schedule. I know we've been missing some weeks here just because life happens, but when we do have a featured guest and when we're here now, it's always a treat. It's always something that's worth it, and I'm so happy if you stuck with us from the beginning to the end. It's another marathon show, but it was full of great stuff. So this is Gerald and Kenny signing out. We'll see you on Comics Cast Let It Out next week, hopefully. So we'll see you on the interwebs. Catch you later. Keep on drawing. One.